18 years ago, a colossal tower pierced the sky, raining crimson lightning across the land. From its shadow, eerie rifts tore open, unleashing tides of monstrous nightmares upon our world. Amidst the chaos, a select few awakened godlike powers, the legendary individuals known as players. These beacons of hope sparked a new global economy, revolving entirely around their superhuman strength. Today, players are icons of ultimate wealth and glory. But then, there is our protagonist. A simple delivery man living a mundane life, haunted by the sting of being left behind. Just an ordinary guy in a world of heroes hauling heavy parcels to high-rise doors. An elite resident opens the door with a casual smile, highlighting the massive social divide. Inside the lavish room, the air smells of luxury. He bows low, apologizing for his delay. Wishing them a fine meal, he retreats back into his invisible, everyday world. Under the neon skyscrapers, his humble scooter feels like a relic of pure insignificance. A massive jumbotron catches his eye, forcing him to halt and lift his visor in awe. On screen is an elite ranker. One look reveals the untouchable aura of a true genius. Jigu gazes up at the screen, mesmerized by a greatness he can only ever watch. When battle calls, this specialized warrior becomes a devastating force of absolute nature. A freezing mist flows from his lungs, literal god-tier cheat code among mere mortals. With a single breath, he conjures gales that trap monsters in an eternal icy tomb. They are apex predators, untouchable beings existing on a level far beyond human limits. A harsh horn shatters his daydream as a nearby driver shouts in sudden frustration. The light is green. Move it. Jigu snaps back to reality with a frantic apology. Another grueling shift finally ends as the cold darkness swallows the city streets. Under a flickering bulb, he finds his mailbox overflowing with a mountain of grim news. Debt notices and medical bills pile up, the crushing weight of his reality sinking in. Sighing at his own foolish dreams, he steps inside to greet his small family. His sister Yu-Young greets him with a warmth that instantly eases his deep fatigue. "Why are you still awake?" he asks. She smiles, claiming homework kept her busy. He checks on their mother, learning she finally found a rare moment of peaceful sleep. Seeing her rest, the heavy tension in his chest finally begins to loosen. Closing the door softly, he asks if she handled their mother's daily care. Instead, she reveals a cake with 18 candles, whispering a heartfelt birthday wish. Stunned, he worries she spent her meager clothing fund on this expensive surprise. She laughs it off, teasingly claiming she is secretly rich enough to buy anything. "I know you love chocolate," she beams, presenting a treat from a famous bakery. He notices her frayed sleeves and realizes the depth of her selfless, sisterly love. Yu-Young continues babbling happily until he softly calls her name to stop her. Patting her head, he thanks her for making him feel truly seen and loved. Giggling, she offers him a special letter to read before they cut the cake. Thinking it is a sweet note from her, he opens it with a wide smile. But as his eyes scan the contents, his heart nearly stops in total disbelief. It is a player invitation. His hands shake as he screams with pure ecstatic joy. Tears of triumph erupt. He is no longer just a spectator. He is a player. Yu-Young throws herself into his arms, her own tears flowing with immense pride. Everything is about to change. Hope blazes in his eyes for the first time. With this legendary power, he can finally save his mother and their broken future. As dawn breaks, the new player stands tall before the Korean Player Association building. The towering skyscraper was overwhelming. 𝐀𝐖𝐀𝐊𝐿 gazed up in pure awe. Incredible. His hands trembled despite his tight grip. Closing his eyes, he fought to reclaim his composure. No, stay sharp. This was no time for nerves. He stared ahead. The journey starts now. Inside, a staff member greeted him warmly. "Congratulations, player 𝐀𝐖𝐀𝐊𝐿." He laughed, feeling slightly embarrassed. "Simply say status window to view your profile," she suggested. "Why not give it a try?" He followed her instructions immediately. Suddenly, his personal information flickered into life before him. Scanning his stats, he frowned. What was that mysterious question mark beside his special ability? She gasped, her face lighting up. Congratulations, you're a special ability holder. It just hasn't awakened. Jigu stared at the glowing system text, unable to believe his own eyes. A special ability, his heart raced. Was he truly destined for such legendary power? His body shook with pure adrenaline. Yes, she cheered. You are indeed a special ability holder. Little did they know, their conversation had been overheard by a man named Sukwoo. Noticing his tremors, she tried to calm him. Relax. Your instructor will explain everything soon. Suddenly, a deep voice interrupted. Excuse me. She turned around, hoping the coach had arrived. But seeing the man behind her, she froze. Player Sukwoo. Jig's heart skipped a beat. Player Sukwoo. The man looked at them. If you don't mind, may I act as his guide? Jigu blinked in shock, pointing a finger at himself. Wait. ... You mean me? The girl's face flushed crimson at Sukwoo's presence. He answered Jig's question with a sincere nod. I didn't mean to eavesdrop, he said seriously. But you're a special ability holder, aren't you? Jig's limbs turned to jelly as his mind raced. Panic began to cloud his thoughts again. The girl stammered, Normally, this isn't allowed. Then, blushing furiously, she waved her hands. But okay? My authority allows for exceptions, so there's no need to worry at all. I'm a veteran manager with 10 years of experience. Sukwoo bowed slightly. Thank you. Before the shimmering portal, Jigu stood mesmerized. The path to the tower? Sukwoo asked. Ready? Yes, Gugu replied, though he couldn't hide his lingering hesitation as he eyed the gate. There's no need for such tension, Sukwoo assured. Right? Jigu stuttered as they stepped through. They arrived, and 𝐀𝐿𝐿 froze in terror. Mr. Sukwoo? His voice alerted the monsters. Are there always this many monsters on floor 1? The pack began their deadly pursuit. Sukwoo remained calm. It seemed spawn cycles overlapped, causing this massive accumulation of monsters. But even for me, this is a first. 𝐀𝐿𝐿 was horrified. Isn't this a disaster? Sukwoo approached the horde, explaining calmly, Actually, it's a blessing. I can show you everything faster. Ever heard of the 100 goblin test? He asked. Jigu nodded, his voice trembling. It's a banned high-risk test, Jigu whispered. Sukwoo nodded. It measures a player's true hidden potential. Potential is calculated by how fast you can slaughter 100 goblins using 0 skills. Suddenly, Sukwoo lunged forward like a lightning bolt toward the shrieking monsters. Clear it in 4 to 5 hours, and you're destined to be a top-tier player. He moved like a hurricane, decapping goblins. Before they could even sense the danger. Effortlessly slaying the horde, he continued, 2 to 3 hours marks the potential of a ranker. His strikes were devastatingly precise. A single, powerful kick sent a shockwave through the surrounding goblins. Complete annihilation means you're high-ranker material. Jigu watched, his jaw dropping in absolute awe. Sukwoo's gaze turned razor-sharp, but for a special ability holder. He spun into a violent vortex. Channeling his inner power, a frostbite aura exploded, instantly freezing every remaining goblin solid. He finished his sentence coldly. 10 minutes. Jigu realized the terrifying truth of a special ability. Witnessing that overwhelming power and calm, Jigu was breathless. He's a complete monster. Sukwoo casually checked his watch. 47 seconds. Panicked, Jigu rushed toward him. Wait, pros take hours, but awakeners need only 10 minutes, Sukwoo mused. What takes years for normal players, awakeners achieve in mere months. Their growth potential defies all logic and human imagination. Heard of 𝐁𝐿𝐿𝐿? Their leader is a legendary young ranker? Exactly. Their elites are monsters who clear trials in record time. My goal is a guild that eclipses even Angela's shadow. That's why I need elite talents. I need an awakener like you. Jigu stood frozen as the weight of those words hit him. Break your limits until we meet again. Enough talk for now. He touched the frozen beast, liquefying the ice to unleash it. A chilling smirk played on his lips. Begin your first hunt. As it lunged, Sukuo barked. Brace your core. Watch that axe. Jigu locked eyes with death, determined to rewrite his tragic fate. Under a clear sky, a player turned toward the clashing steel. His blade hissed through air missing. Damn it, he cursed, frustrated. Finally here. Stop apologizing and look at this, he grumbled. Jigu roared, driving his sword into the earth with desperate strength. Pathetic. Is he really struggling with the trendy goblin challenge? Slaying 100 goblins? Not with that lack of talent? I thought so too, the observer sighed as Jigu gasped. He opened his status window, teeth gritting in absolute rage. Damn it all, Gu screamed, while onlookers stared in total disbelief. He clutched his head, drowning in a sea of self-loathing. An awakener chosen elite, yet a single goblin still takes him hours. Who would believe this? I'm still stuck at level 1. A flash of steel, and the goblin was cleaved in two. Jigu gathered the group, praising them as they thanked their guide. Did you level up? They beamed, amazed at their rapid growth. The early levels are always a breeze, Jigu explained hollowly. Tomorrow, second floor entrance. Don't be late, he said, leaving. Whispers followed his shadow. Is he really the famous one? He's a legend. A boy confirmed, greedily looting the mana crystals. Famous for what? The boy smirked. The dark rumors, obviously. They say he's an awakener. But why work as a guide? Because the boy whispered, he's the system's lowest ranked failure. The lowest rank? Is that even possible? They asked, shocked. He glanced at Jigu. They call him the Unlevellable Player. Jigu leaned against a gnarled tree, hidden deep in the shadows. This desolate corner was his only sanctuary on the first floor. One goblin spawns here daily. Right on cue, the shadow emerged. He drew his blade. Surprise strike was his only hope. He crept forward, palms slick with sweat as he closed in. Suddenly the goblin spun. Its spear hissed toward his throat. Steel clashed as the ambush spiraled into a desperate struggle. Jigu gritted his teeth. Here we go, another hellish fight. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he trudged back to the Player Management Association. He stared at the 20,001 in his hand with a heavy heart after potion costs. He was basically working for free. Jigu turned the corner and was startled to see Teo opening the door, quickly offering a polite greeting. Teo seemed equally surprised to run into him. Jigu kindly asked if the late-night shift was taking a toll on him. Teo's face shifted from indifference to a cold, sudden apology, before he hurried away. Sensing something was wrong, Jigu entered the office to ask Otis, the head instructor, about Teo's strange behavior. Otis lowered his head, hesitating before revealing that Teo would be taking over Jig's trainees, starting tomorrow. A stunned Jigu asked why, but Otis couldn't even meet his gaze, mumbling that everything had been fine at the start. But then, Otis sighed. The rumors about you reached their ears. Jigu fell into a heavy silence. Biting his lip in frustration, Jigu demanded to know what rumors had to do with his teaching. Otis replied warily that there was no defense since the truth was undeniable. Suddenly, a news flash blared from the television. A reporter excitedly announced that Angela was preparing to conquer the 75th floor. Both men instinctively turned toward the screen, listening as the anchors exchanged rapid-fire updates. They confirmed that Angela was indeed pushing for the 75th floor and would hold a departure ceremony at the Soul Gate tomorrow morning. Jigu muttered that, while everyone obsesses over players, most have never even stepped near the tower. Otis pursed his lips, admitting that the public simply idols these players like gods. Jigu listened blankly as Otis rambled about how gates appear anywhere and anyone could potentially awaken as a player. He didn't respond, his eyes fixed on the news while Otis's words echoed in his mind. To him, the future felt like a dark, endless void. The chatter from the television continued to ring in his ears. The news reported an SSS-Rank gate appearing in America, with the United States desperately seeking South Korea's aid in exchange for a massive reward. This news only amplified the hype around Angela's earlier declaration. For Jigu, the dream of climbing the tower felt light years away. Unable to take it anymore, He snapped the TV off. Otis complained, asking why he'd shut it while he was still watching. "Just felt like it," Jigu replied flatly. Otis didn't press the matter further. Handing over the day's pay envelope, Otis reminded Jigu that Teo was a good kid and not to hold a grudge. Jigu forced a smile, telling him it wasn't Teo's fault, and there was no need for pity. Otis nodded, telling him to arrive early the next morning to hand over his duties. Clicking his mouse, Otis mentioned that despite everything, someone had specifically requested Jigu. The next morning, Jigu went to meet this mystery person. The man introduced himself as 𝐀𝐖𝐀𝐊𝐿, offering a warm and enthusiastic handshake. Jigu introduced himself as the guide, but 𝐀𝐖𝐀𝐊𝐿 cut him off, saying he'd heard legendary stories about him from 𝐂𝐿. Confused, Jigu struggled to place the name. 𝐂𝐿 clarified that 𝐂𝐿 was his cousin. A memory flickered, and Jigu smiled, offering a silent thanks. He then asked 𝐂𝐿 to introduce the rest of the team. 𝐂𝐿 pointed them out. Jun Chen, Jun Sung-woo, and Kim Hanan. The three greeted him warmly. Jigu laid out the plan, hoping they could finish the training course within 5 days. He led the way with enthusiasm, explaining the mechanics of the area as they walked. They trekked from dawn until dusk. When twilight hit, he ordered the group to set up camp and started the portable stove. Kim Han-yoon approached, asking if he needed a hand. He waved her off, telling her to rest since the camp was already set. Soon, the aroma of a delicious stew filled the air, prompting the trainees to hail him as a master chef. Suddenly, Jun Chen blurted out, asking if it was true that Jig's level never increases. 𝐂𝐿 immediately snapped at him for his rudeness. Jigu remained calm, confirming the truth and telling them to just ask if they were curious. Embarrassed, the boy apologized. 𝐂𝐿 gave Jen a final warning look. Jigu, while serving the food, shifted the focus to how their first hunt went. Han-yeon admitted it wasn't as difficult as she feared. While Sung-woo mentioned he'd taken a minor hit, Jigu reminded them that first-floor goblins have crude weapons and predictable patterns. But they shouldn't get cocky. He encouraged them to stay sharp, to progress quickly. As the pot bubbled, he gave a stern warning about avoiding the guardians. Seeing their confusion, he explained that every floor has a guardian capable of annihilating an entire raid party. Their power rivals that of gatekeepers. While they offer massive experience, only high-ranking players would ever dare face them alone. 𝐂𝐿 and Han-yoon could only stare, their eyes wide with terror. Seeing their fear, he reassured them that he tracks their respawn cycles. In specialized guilds handle the hunting, so they were safe with him. High on the 4th floor, between lush forests and barren sands, a lone goblin flees in absolute terror. A stray stone sends him crashing down. As a looming shadow draws near, cold dread paralyzes his very soul. Before he can even scream, he's torn asunder. Under the pale moonlight, a savage guardian finally reveals its monstrous form. Day 2, Floor 2. The tutorial continues. Kim Jig's team faces orcs, but 𝐂𝐿 cuts them down like paper. By day 3 on the 3rd floor, they find themselves surrounded by a fresh horde of orcs and goblins. 𝐂𝐿 scoffs at their stupidity. With just one well-placed stone, Jigu tricks the monsters into slaughtering each other. 𝐂𝐿 realizes their rapid progress is all thanks to Jig's perfect pathfinding. Choosing him as a guide was a masterstroke. Noticing a strange look, Jigu turns to 𝐂𝐿. He asks what on earth the man is up to. 𝐂𝐿 reveals he's been keeping a journal since the very day he received that mysterious invitation letter. He dreams of publishing his memoirs once he becomes a top-tier ranker. Tomorrow, we conquer the 5th floor trials. Han-yeon wipes his brow, his heart racing with anticipation. He wonders just how high his final rank will be. Even while brushing his teeth, Sung-woo joins in the excitement. Laughter echoes through their campsite under the stars. Only Jigu remains silent, staring deep into the flickering embers. His eyes then drift toward the vast, dark sky above. Bathed in brilliant moonlight, he whispers a quiet prayer. The 5th floor, he can almost reach it now. Morning arrives. Jigu warns them that Floor 4 holds faster, deadlier goblins, though their tactics remain the same. 𝐀𝐲 blade whistles through the air as he engages a massive goblin in a fierce head-on clash. Han-Yun fights with grim determination while Sung-Vu blindly swings his sword, decapitating a monster with pure instinct. Not wanting to be outdone, Jevin leaps into the fray, his blade carving through another goblin's defenses. Watching from the sidelines, Jig's instincts scream. A massive dust cloud approaches, but the Guardian shouldn't spawn today. His knuckles turn white as he tightens his grip on his sword. Something is very, very wrong. This is no ordinary event. Run. Everyone, get out of here now, he bellows, turning to retreat instantly. He lunges for their gear. Years of guiding taught him one thing. Reality is far more brutal than any game. Mind racing, he swiftly dons the heavy packs, preparing for the desperate escape ahead of them. Suddenly, a cry of pain. Jevin collapses with a leg injury as a bloodthirsty goblin closes in for the kill. 𝐀𝐲 roars his name, his blade flashing in a deadly arc that sends the goblin's head flying. Jigu watches the chaos unfold. In this place, even a split-second lapse in judgment can lead to a total wipeout. Jevin trembles in shock. Nearby, Han-Yun takes a heavy blow, letting out a cursed shout as his guard breaks. Jig's eyes fix on the approaching storm of dust. It's moving too fast, closing the distance with terrifying speed. Out of the swirling haze, a monstrous figure emerges. His worst fears have just become a living nightmare. A sea of goblins swarms behind the behemoth. Facing a true guardian here, this wasn't part of the plan. Jigu whips out a smoke grenade, his voice cutting through the panic. Get ready to move now. The canister explodes, shrouding the battlefield in thick fog.
Move your legs.
Don't you dare look back. Where to? 𝐀𝐲 gasps. Just follow me. Jigu leads them toward a hidden cave, their only hope for survival. They collapse inside the dark grotto, gasping for air. 𝐀𝐲 wheezes, What? What the hell was that monster? That was the Floor for Guardian, Jigu mutters, his brow furrowed. But it shouldn't be wandering this far out. He drops the heavy packs, offering a silent prayer of thanks that their vital supplies are still intact. Gugu look, Sung-Vu cries out. Han-Yun's face is flushed a deadly crimson, her breath coming in ragged gasps. Goblin poison. Jigu tries to stay calm. It's okay. We have the antidote. A strong painkiller should stabilize her. His heart hammers against his ribs as he fumbles through the bag. The medicine is not there. The bag must have unzipped during the frantic retreat. He cursed his own stupidity for such a fatal, rookie mistake. No, panic is a luxury he can't afford. He forces his breathing to slow, sharpening his focus once more. I'm heading back out for reinforcements, Jigu declares. The group immediately protests. The outside world is a death trap. He offers a grim smile. Don't forget who I am. I've survived this tutorial more times than I can count. I'm just firing a signal flare. Trust the world's greatest level 1 expert. With that, he slips into the shadows. Crouching behind a jagged rock, he watches the restless horde. With a guardian leading them, their behavior is completely unpredictable. He stood frozen in indecision, torn between retreating and pressing on as the sky bled into a dark, ominous twilight. Scaling the jagged cliffside, Jigu intended to fire a quick flare before retreating back to the safety of the cave. Tread lightly, he thought, just avoid the guardian. But unbeknownst to him, the beast had already manifested behind his back. Terror gripped Jigu as he sensed the danger. The goblin's massive blade swung down, leaving him paralyzed and gasping in fear. Unable to dodge, the blow sent him hurtling into the rocks. The impact shattered his ribs, forcing him to cough blood. His smoke canister shattered, blinding the monster. Seizing the chaos, Jigu desperately crawled away from the impending slaughter. Gritting his teeth, he glared back at its bloodthirsty face, cursing the cruel fate that led to this deadly encounter. Clutching his pistol, he knew he had to flee. He aimed skyward, aware the guardian wouldn't fall for the same trick twice. After firing the signal flare, he desperately scrambled to create some distance between himself and the relentless hunting beast. Jigu sprinted with all his might, praying for a savior. Suddenly, a shimmer appeared at the gate to the Floor 5 trial. He once considered a suicide charge, but the memory of his sister and aging mother made his brave resolve waver. He stumbled toward the gate, questioning his own sanity. Why would a mere level 1 like him run toward certain doom? Collapsing against the gate, he wept. If level 4s struggled here, what hope did a weakling like him truly have? He was walking straight into his grave. Behind him, the Guardian's heavy, murderous footsteps thundered, closing the gap rapidly. Gritting his teeth, Jigu shoved the doors open. He chose the unknown over certain death, determined to see what lay beyond. A blinding radiance erupted as the doors yielded. A cold, mechanical chime announced his arrival at the very first trial. After verifying his identity, the system confirmed he met the requirements. A robotic voice echoed through the mysterious empty chamber. The system signaled his entry into the first trial. Suddenly, a simple white goat manifested out of thin air. The mission was clear: kill the goat. Panting heavily, Jigu stared at the mundane animal, completely lost for words. Cursing under his breath, he plunged his blade into the goat's neck. A pained cry echoed before everything went silent. The trial was complete. As blood pooled, the system chimed incessantly, praising his performance and granting him legendary rewards. Jigu stood in a daze. He'd expected a brutal execution, not this strange and effortless victory. Watching the carcass vanish into light, he still couldn't believe the legendary trial was this simple. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. Abyssal black tendrils surged forward, ensnaring him as he watched in paralyzed, silent confusion. Enveloped in a dark cocoon, he felt himself falling into an abyss. A mysterious, haunting voice whispered directly in his ear. "What are you?" The question jolted him awake. He was floating in a vast, infinite void, lost in the darkness. The voice echoed again, demanding to know if he was truly the one destined to be its master. It sounded like a young boy, yet the weight of the word master left Jigu feeling profoundly uneasy and confused. The entity snapped in frustration at his silence. Jigu, fueled by a surge of anger, finally found the strength to shout back. The voice sighed, commanding him to grant it a name. Jigu could only blink, stunned by the bizarre request. It explained its desire to forge a soul-deep bond, wanting to link its very existence with his. The system confirmed the request, asking for a name for the ego. Suddenly, visions of his family flashed before him. They rushed toward him with tearful eyes. Jigu finally awoke, finding himself lying in a quiet hospital bed. Seeing him finally regain consciousness, they frantically called for the nurses, their faces filled with overwhelming relief and joy. Jigu realized 2 weeks had vanished since his collapse on Floor 5. 𝐂𝐻𝐿 quickly filled him in on everything. A guild of players had cornered the Guardian at the gate, but the cunning monster managed to escape the encirclement. Though the beast still weighed on his mind, seeing the familiar faces of his friends finally brought peace to his heart. When his mother called, he offered soft reassurances, speaking gently to ensure she wouldn't worry any longer. Dragging his forced stand along, he listened patiently to her voice, insisting she never needed to apologize for anything. He laughed softly, claiming he was a grown man now, and urging her to rest without any further concern. He lied about the insurance covering his bills, vowing to watch his health just to put her heart at ease. Standing by the window, he told his sister to stay home before hanging up, sinking into a deep, silent contemplation. Gazing at the city below, he realized surviving Floor 5 hadn't changed his reality as much as he'd hoped. Clutching his phone, the truth stung he was still level 1. He took a breath, forcing his trembling hands to relax. Suddenly, a faint light shimmered on his finger, materializing into a mysterious ring that pulsed with an unknown power. Despite his stagnant rank, he entered the management building without hesitation. Inside, the usual crowd was grinding away. The moment he stepped inside, every eye in the room instinctively locked onto him. Seeing 𝐂𝐬𝐫𝐞 in his signature black backpack, a trainee whispered, "Is that guy really a big deal?" Others nodded, but Jigu ignored them completely. As he walked away, the curious whispers only grew louder. A veteran hunter nearby leaned in, mentioning the dark rumors surrounding the man. "They say he's stuck at level 1, yet he's soloing the higher floors." Suddenly, a youth claimed those rumors were ancient history. With a cocky smirk, he asked if they'd heard about his terrifying new title. As they stood there puzzled, Jigu was facing a pack of blood-crazed goblins. The Bloodthirsty Guide. That was his new name. Alone, he stood his ground against the charging green tide. A smirk played on his lips as the ring on his finger erupted in a crimson glow. A blade materialized in his grip, pulsing with a lethal red energy that fueled his rising confidence. In a blink, he vanished. The goblins only felt a breeze before their entire squad was decimated. Jigu lunged at the next pack, soaring high, before delivering a devastating, ground-shattering strike. That eerie voice from the 5th floor still echoed in his mind, demanding a name. With one final lethal swing, he uttered the name, Do. His blade vibrated in savage approval. Suddenly, his status window began to flicker, consumed by an intense, blood-red light. Jigu didn't even blink, continuing his cold-blooded slaughter of the remaining monsters. New text appeared. He was now an ego partner. Do's stats surged level 7 with overwhelming power. Its main skill allowed it to mimic accessories, but moments later it evolved to level 8. Looking at his pack, overflowing with glowing purple crystals, Jigu couldn't help but marvel. Not long ago, a single orc had him trembling. Now he was casually harvesting crystals like a pro. He glanced at the serpent ring. Not bad, right, Do? The ring flashed red, as if laughing back. Let's rewind the clock to 1 month ago. Deep in the forest, Jigu was obsessed with his status window, specifically the mysterious ego partner category. This wasn't a dream. He was glad he'd ditched the hospital, though a sudden chill hit him. 𝐻𝐿 was going to kill him. He could already see her demonic face demanding why he'd left his bed. He knew the risks, but his mind was made up. He had to act. After 5 years of stagnation, his status window had finally changed. He couldn't just sit around. He began to brainstorm, trying to figure out how to resonate with this ego entity. As the minutes ticked by, an idea sparked. He suddenly struck a pose, his boots carving a line in the grass. Covering one eye and thrusting his hand forward, he roared with ultimate intensity. Ego... Link. Complete silence. The forest was deathly quiet as Jigu froze in his embarrassing, over-the-top pose. Nearby, a bird perched on a branch gave him a look reserved for the truly mentally unstable. Sensing the pure cringe, the bird flew away. Jigu quickly pretended to tie his shoelaces to save his dignity. He scratched his head, face burning with shame. He felt like a total delusional idiot, thanking the heavens that no one was around to witness that. He'd named the rude voice Do, yet he still had no clue how to actually summon the damn thing. Then, without warning, a crimson flash erupted, followed by a mysterious blue sphere floating in midair. The system announced that Ego Do had been summoned. Jigu stood frozen, jaw dropping in shock. The system explained that Do lacked a fixed form. Due to his low level, its appearance would be randomized. He cheered it actually worked. The system's next warning stopped him cold. To manifest a physical body, it would absorb surrounding matter. Jig's face went blank. Wait, what? Violent gusts of wind suddenly spiraled around him, whipping his clothes into a frenzy. The gale intensified, threatening to lift him off the ground. That blue sphere was going completely berserk. It hoisted him into the air as he shrieked in terror, before ruthlessly snatching his backpack away. 5,001 is a lot. A broke guy like him had to cling to every bit of wealth. Suddenly, a violent ripping sound echoed. His clothes were being shredded into nothingness. In an instant, the fabric was torn to pieces and sucked into that mysterious blue orb. The wind howled. At this rate, he'd be totally naked. In a panic, he begged it to stop. When it didn't listen, he screamed until his throat burned. Finally, the chaos subsided into silence. The blue sphere transformed, becoming a prismatic orb wrapped in an ominous, deep crimson aura. He lay there stunned, wondering if it was over. But then the orb began to vibrate violently. An explosion rocked the earth. A pillar of red light pierced the sky, illuminating the dark forest. The terrifying pressure sent birds fleeing in such a frenzy that feathers rained down like snow. As the light faded, Jigu opened his eyes. He froze. A dark purple sword was floating before him. Embedded in the hilt was a grotesque red eye, staring intensely at its new master. After covering himself with a tattered rag, the reality of the situation finally sank in. He asked the sword if it was truly due. The weapon seemed annoyed by his constant questioning. It actually dared to call him an idiot. Jigu suppressed his rage, choosing to ignore the insult. Getting down to business, he demanded to know the truth. What exactly was an ego? He guessed it was a soul, but Du dismissed him. He examined the blade, waiting for answers. To his surprise, even the sword didn't know what an ego truly was. It snapped at him for touching its body, calling him a total pervert in a mocking tone. Fuming, Jigu closed his eyes to keep his cool. He then asked if Du could move independently. Maybe later, it replied vaguely. Jigu then wondered if the soul link could ever be broken. However, only the master held that power. The ego was bound to him for life. Intrigued, he asked another question. Could the sword actually attack him if it moved freely? The answer was yes, but if the master died, the ego would also vanish into nothingness. So it was basically impossible. Jigu smirked cryptically, then asked if it could feel pain. It proudly admitted it could. As a great ego, it possessed every sense the master activated. Why do you ask? It wondered. Meanwhile, Jigu was quietly tightening his grip on a stone. The system pinged, asking to enable Du's pain. Jigu raised the rock high into the air. Crack! He slammed the stone down, teaching the arrogant weapon a lesson in basic manners. A blood-curdling scream erupted, shaking the heavens. From then on, Jigu went on a hunting spree. Du feasted on the blood of monsters, gaining massive experience and leveling up its stats continuously. Snapping back to the present, Jigu let out a long sigh and began to tease. Glancing at his ring, he asked if it remembered its past rudeness. Du laughed nervously, feeling mortified. It makes my blood boil, Du grumbled. Sensing Jig's killing intent, it quickly claimed it was joy. It barked about being honored to serve such a master. Only then did Jigu let it slide. With his bag full, Jigu prepared to head back. But Du complained about being cooped up. It was itching for a fight. Jigu decided to skip the tower and enter a gate instead. However, Otis warned him to stay away from all gates for the time being. Apparently, 4 high-ranking masters had recently met a gruesome end in a gate in America. Abnormal gates were surfacing everywhere. Weak F-ranks were transforming into high-level death traps. Such chaotic anomalies hadn't been seen in over 23 years, but now they appeared weekly. Jigu realized this started exactly when he first met Du. Could they be connected? Shook his head, dismissing the thought as a mere coincidence. Seeing Jig's silence, Otis clarified that he wasn't banning him from gates forever. He just wanted Jigu safe during this upheaval, urging him to be patient with his powers. Jigu appreciated the genuine concern and thanked him. Otis smiled, relieved that he finally understood. With their meeting concluded, the two shared their final farewells. Just as he turned to leave, a sarcastic jab about being a bloodthirsty guide sent him stomping away. In a huff, leaving the building behind, his mind drifted toward those pure crystals. Rare items, massive clear bonuses, ... It was undeniable. Gates were a far more lucrative gold mine than the tower. Driven by greed, he reached for his phone. Tessit's warnings echoed in his head, but debts do not pay themselves. Life demands risks when you are broke. Besides, anomalous gates were a 1 in a million occurrence. Surely lightning would not strike twice. Luck was on his side as he spotted a recruitment post for Guji City. Without a second thought, he dialed the number instantly. The call tone barely rang for a few seconds, before a voice answered from the other end. At a bustling cafe, 𝐀𝐿𝐿 met a man in a crisp white shirt who introduced himself as the party. Leader 𝐂𝐿. 𝐂𝐿 quickly introduced himself in return, confirming he was the one who had reached out earlier that day. First time hunting in a gate? The leader asked. Jigu nodded but quickly added he had already mastered party tactics. 𝐂𝐿 gave a knowing nod, seemingly satisfied with the response. He then slid a contract over, detailing everything from profit splits to penalties for any breach of trust. The terms were standard, though the distribution of rare equipment would be decided by a simple dice roll. As Jigu scanned the documents, 𝐂𝐿 set the meet for tomorrow at 2 o'clock sharp in 𝐂𝐬. No tardiness allowed. In this world, gates are typically categorized into two primary types. One-time gates vanish upon completion, while permanent gates remain, allowing hunters to return for consistent grinding. While permanent gates offer lower rewards, their predictable nature makes them a safer and more popular choice for many. Jigu eventually arrived at the rendezvous point. With everyone's gear checked and ready, the party prepared to move out. One by one, the hunters disappeared into the yawning darkness of the tunnel. The five-man team advanced in silence, yet an awkward distance remained between each member. Jigu noticed the lack of chemistry. It seemed they were all just random recruits brought together by an ad. Only 𝐂𝐿 and the girl beside him seemed to share any prior history. They whispered constantly until something suddenly caught the leader's sharp eyes. "Stop!" His sharp command made the entire team freeze and turn in confusion. Eerie echoes filled the pitch-black tunnel. 𝐂𝐿 notched an arrow, his voice dropping low. "They are coming." On cue, a grotesque swarm of undead surged from the shadows, hungry for living flesh. With glowing crimson eyes and blood-curdling screeches, the monsters lunged from the dark. "Defensive positions," 𝐂𝐿 barked, letting an arrow fly as the blonde warrior reacted instantly. With a heavy grunt, he slammed his shield forward, crushing a charging zombie's momentum. The rest of the team joined the fray. It was finally time to show these monsters hell. 𝐂𝐿 drew his bow again. Cold blue aura coated his arrow before it pierced a monster's skull. Simultaneously, the swordsman in white blurred forward, delivering a devastating slash to another rotter. The creature shrieked in agony, but the swordsman merely clicked his tongue in pure annoyance. Without missing a beat, he followed up with a thunderous kick that sent the creature reeling. As he slashed through the stubborn undead, a dark blur suddenly shot past him with blinding speed. In the wake of that mysterious shadow, the undead fell like wheat before a scythe, a path carved through the horde by an overwhelming aura. Across the battlefield, ... The other warriors stood frozen, jaws dropping in awe. Even 𝐂𝐿 was visibly shaken by the display. Once the chaos subsided, the exhausted party sat down to finally catch their breath. "If it was not for you, we would still be fighting," the blonde warrior remarked, looking at Jigu with respect. "You totally carried us," the swordsman added. Gu just chuckled nervously, blaming it on pure luck. "Don't be modest. You practically soloed that mid-boss," the warrior insisted, his eyes sparkling. He even suggested teaming up for future hunts once this gate was officially cleared. Jigu offered a polite smile, though internally, his mind was already racing with hidden thoughts. It was a miracle 𝐂𝐿 didn't take offense. Normally, such blatant disrespect to a leader would have dire consequences. He couldn't help but linger his gaze on 𝐂𝐿 and the girl. They seemed strangely detached from the conversation. The other two continued their shameless flattery, crediting him for the day's smooth run. He acted humble, but secretly their praise stoked his ego perfectly. Sensing they had rested enough, 𝐂𝐿 signaled the party to move out and venture deeper. At the command, he tightened his grip on his blade and asked Du if he was ready for what lay ahead. Du didn't answer directly, merely complaining about the foul stench of undead blood. They were at the boss's lair now. There was no turning back. In the shadows, the blonde youth gestured for the man in white to approach for a quiet word. He whispered something into the man's ear while eyeing Jigu, both of them wearing chilling, enigmatic smiles. Moments later, they reached the tunnel's end. A massive iron gate loomed before them, marking the entrance to the boss's chamber. Those giant iron bars weren't just for show. They were forged specifically to keep a monster caged. Without hesitation, Song-Soo began outlining the strategy to take down the gatekeeper Talent, a gargantuan, ravenous ghoul. Suddenly, a rude voice cut him off, telling him to save it. The blond youth gestured dismissively with his fingers. He claimed they had already researched this eternal gate. He urged them to stop wasting time and just start the hunt. Song-Soo stood his ground, even if they knew the way. One careless mistake in this gate could cost everyone their lives. The youth clicked his tongue in annoyance. Song-Soo's female companion, silent until now, finally reached her breaking point. Her face darkened as she glared at him. Song-Soo caught her eye and shot back a warning look that made her flinch. Seeing his grim expression, she immediately suppressed her anger and retreated back into a cold silence. Song-Soo calmly resumed his explanation as if nothing happened. Gilgu watched him closely, sensing something deeply unsettling about his behavior. After melting through the bars and stepping inside, they immediately spotted Talent sitting with its massive back turned toward them. Seeing that towering, muscular frame, someone gasped, whispering that the beast was far larger than the rumors suggested. Another teammate hissed at him to stay quiet. On signal, the party began executing their carefully coordinated plan. Song-Soo initiated the attack with an explosive arrow, drawing his bowstring until it was taut with tension. He took aim and released. The arrow tore through the air with terrifying force, screaming toward Talent like a comet. Just as predicted, the impact sent the monster into a blind rage, swinging its massive fists at the intruders. Song Byung-hun, the blonde youth acting as the tank, let out a roar. He braced his entire body to absorb the boss's incoming strike. In an instant, the beast closed the gap and slammed a devastating punch directly into Byung-hun's shield. The collision was cataclysmic, kicking up a thick cloud of dust. Shards of the shattered shield sprayed in every direction. Talent's power was overwhelming. The force of the blow sent Byung-hun flying back several meters, crashing violently onto the ground. Seizing that exact moment, Jigu and the man in white, the party's primary damage dealers, surged forward. They exploited the opening, unleashing a relentless assault to deal as much damage as humanly possible. The two moved in perfect sync, stabbing and slashing with lethal precision. Talent let out a guttural, blood-curdling roar of fury. Its eyes turned a terrifying blood-red hue. The critical moment had arrived as the beast curled inward to begin its transformation. In its new form, its defense tripled. Standard attacks would be nothing more than scratches against its reinforced hide. Someone shouted for Jigu to strike. They had banked everything on his ability to pierce through the monster's ironclad defenses. Jig's power erupted instantly. A sinister, spectral aura shrouded him in a demonic, wispy haze. He launched himself into the air, gripping his hilt with both hands for a decisive, downward execution strike. While he was suspended midair, the cold, mechanical chime of the system echoed in his mind. It announced that his synchronization with Do had increased. He felt his power surge, momentarily stunned by the sudden breakthrough. He quickly pushed the thought aside, pouring every ounce of his strength into a devastating blow against Talent. The strike was magnificent and terrifying, trailing flashes of lightning that left the onlookers paralyzed with awe. The system message flashed before his eyes. You have successfully defeated the gatekeeper, Talent. Byung-hun and the man in white stood frozen, their eyes wide with disbelief as they stared at Jigu. Even Song-Soo and the girl were visibly shaken by the display. The system continued to chime incessantly with notifications. Experience points flooded in. One-shot kill bonus was applied. Level-up messages repeated over and over in a chaotic stream. But the most shocking revelation was the system's final note. Talent's blood had permanently enhanced his latent abilities. New skill acquired? Cannibalism. Devour corpses to restore health. As Talent collapsed, a teammate spat out a sharp curse. Pure insanity. Meanwhile, others cheered Jig's name in triumph. Ung-hun gripped his shoulder, desperate for his contact info. Overwhelmed by the attention, Jigu awkwardly brushed them off. Song-Soo intervened, revealing a rare drop, a paralysis dagger. A one-shot kill and a rare item drop? Following their contract, Song-Soo prepared the dice roll. Eun-hun leaned in, whispering, "Shouldn't that blade be yours?" Jigu offered a cold glare, irritated by the man's insolence. The snake kept whispering, insisting Jigu deserved all the credit. "Join us," he urged. "We'll pressure Song-Soo together." Their greedy plan? Use Jigu to seize the loot. A win-win deal?
No.
Gu saw through their pathetic scheme. Years as a guide had sharpened his intuition for filth. He'd suspected them, but this level of betrayal was brazen. Song-Soo and that woman. They were hiding deep secrets. The party gathered, forming a tense circle of suspicion. "Ready?" Song-Soo asked, reaching for the dice. The traders exchanged a look. Eun-hun prepared to strike. In a flash, Eun-hun lunged at Song-Soo with steel. The blade was inches away, yet Song-Soo remained motionless. At the last second, Jigu intercepted Eun-hun's sword hand. Caught off guard, Eun-hun watched the world flip over. With a powerful throw, Jigu slammed him into the dirt. A scream erupted as Jigu pinned his face down hard. Allies? Hardly. Jigu knew one mistake meant instant death. Eun-hun struggled wildly, screaming for Ryo to save him. Ryo stood paralyzed by terror, unable to move or speak. "Just a prank." Eun-hun lied, his voice trembling now. Jigu ignored the pleas, focused on the true danger nearby. A narrow escape. He glanced at the girl beside Song-Soo. Killing intent exploded from her. Her left eye glowed crimson. Her speed was terrifying. He never saw her draw. A mage, no. She and Song-Soo were true predators. Even with a blade at his throat, Song-Soo hadn't blinked. He stared death in the face. Who were they? Song-Soo mirrored his curiosity. Jigu deflected the question. Ryo discarded his pride, kneeling and blaming Eun-hun's greed. "I knew nothing," he swore, weeping in sheer terror. Ignoring the cries, Song-Soo wondered why Jigu intervened. He fell silent, then summoned the mysterious girl, Hajin. A silent nod. Her aura shifted into a lethal stance. Jig's eyes widened. She vanished in a terrifying blur. Like a ghost, she appeared beside Ryo, eyes burning red. With a flash of lethal speed, she struck his neck. Ryo let out a final, strangled cry before collapsing. Witnessing the brutal display, Jigu realized the truth: this woman was a walking catastrophe. Intrigued, Jigu mimicked her technique, delivering a heavy, bone-snapping chop to Eun-hun's throat. Eun-hun sputtered violently as his breath escaped him. Jigu stood tall, looking down with cold indifference. The man's body slumped into the dirt. His soul had already departed for the afterlife. Jigu stared at his palm, shocked by his own newfound lethality. He then demanded the dagger from Song-Soo. When questioned, his logic was simple. He had saved Song-Soo's life, making the weapon a fair commission. However, Song-Soo remained hesitant, feeling the price for his survival was far too steep. Jigu shrugged it off, claiming such a relic was a trifle for a master. Song-Soo fell into a stunned silence. After a tense moment, Song-Soo finally spoke, his voice trembling. "Do you even know who he is?" Jigu deduced that anyone with a bodyguard like Hajim was clearly no ordinary figure in this world. Still, he made it clear he had zero interest in their identities or their complicated secrets. Smirking arrogantly, he left the cleanup to them, eager to hunt more before his departure. Speechless, they watched him leave. Soon after, Du finally found a moment to speak with Jigu alone. The blade warned him that woman Hajim was a monster in human skin. Jigu already knew. He kept his cool. Running would have only painted a target on his back. Du wasn't convinced. Du mocked him. A conversation. You treated those dangerous people like your personal cleanup crew. Gil countered firmly, "I saved his life. Taking that item was merely my rightful payment." With the deal settled, they moved on. Suddenly, the system chimed. Dead blood had been absorbed. The sword greedily devoured the remaining dark energy, pulsing with a sinister, hungry light. Jigu checked on Du, but the ego recoiled, complaining that zombie blood tasted like pure. Wretched rot. Seeing the sword's intense disgust, Jigu decided not to force the issue any further. Gazing at the glowing ring, he pushed forward. The zombies were gone, but his hunger for power remained. Thanks to the blood, his stats surged: goblin agility, crow strength, and undead stamina now coursed through him. His combat prowess was now far beyond what any normal level could ever represent. Before leaving the zone, Jigu made one final stop: the elusive reward room. Using the gatekeeper's corpse as a key, he approached the gray void, the sacred realm of prizes. Just as he reached out, something caught his eye. He froze and called out to Du. "What is it now?" Du asked, sounding annoyed by the sudden interruption. Jigu pointed at glowing ley lines tracing the walls. Du confirmed they had never been there before. Suspicious of the anomaly, Jigu approached the stone surface and gave it a sharp knock. A hollow echo rang out through the chamber. There was a hidden room behind the wall. Sword in hand, Jigu prepared to breach the barrier. Du gave the green light with a grim grin. He swung with all his might, but in that split second, Du sensed something terrifying within. "Stop!" Du screamed, but it was too late. Wall shattered, sending a cloud of debris everywhere. Jigu coughed, waving away the thick dust to see what lay behind the broken stone. "What were you trying to say?" Jigu asked. Du muttered a single chilling word: ego. The blade sensed a kindred spirit. Another powerful ego was lurking in the shadows ahead. Jigu froze. Through the settling haze, a mysterious light began to take shape in the darkness. He couldn't hide his doubt. Could another legendary ego really be hidden in a place like this? Suddenly, a blinding white radiance erupted from the rift, searing his vision with overwhelming power. Staring into the light, Jigu felt a wave of shock. How many egos actually existed in this world? Had his years of struggle been a joke? "That's because you were an idiot," Du quipped. Jigu snapped back in anger, but Du ignored him, urging him to find the hidden power nearby. As another surge of dust choked the air, Jigu waited for the mystery to finally unveil itself. This gate was stripped bare years ago. No secrets could possibly remain. Yet, a strange presence lingered. Suddenly, something caught his sharp gaze. As the dust settled, a pristine white blade stood atop a stone altar. A holy sword? Its swirling divine energy made him hesitate to reach out. With Du silent, Jigu ignored his fear and gripped the hilt tight. The embedded gem ignited, flooding the entire chamber with a blinding radiance. A voice echoed through the void. "Are you truly my master?" it asked. Jigu opened his eyes to a familiar, endless white space, just like before. But the atmosphere felt different. He addressed the mysterious voice directly. The sword's ego confirmed its identity. It had waited ages for a master. "I am not your master yet," Jigu declared. "But I will be." After a thoughtful silence, the ego asked for a name. Jigu chose Io. With a final flash of light, the contract was sealed. Jigu returned. Holding the white sword, a strange calm washed over him this time. His peace was shattered by a sudden, violent rumbling from the depths. Cracks raced across the walls. The entire basement was about to collapse. Du and Io both screamed to run. Jigu bolted for his life. "Who is this?" Du demanded. Io retorted, "And what about you?" The sword ego began boastfully chanting about its own supreme greatness. "Enough. Be quiet," Jigu snapped, his blood boiling in the chaos. He spotted the Talon's corpse. He needed to warp, but the earth shook. The floor split beneath him. Cursing in terror, he lunged for the corpse. His fingers touched it. The system prompted. "Warp to the reward room." "Hurry up!" he roared. A massive gale instantly swirled around him. The vortex swallowed him whole, pulling him into a separate dimension. A fiery-eyed behemoth loomed. News broke. A permanent gate had collapsed. It was an unprecedented disaster. No one understood the cause. Public panic surged as more mysterious gates began appearing everywhere. The media screamed warnings. Now, was this an omen of a total apocalypse? Jigu felt lucky. Collapsed after he left, keeping him above suspicion. Along with 30 purple crystals, he earned a powerful health-boosting amulet. It was a divine treasure that even ordinary humans could use. It strengthened his mother, while the crystal sails covered her hospital bills. With his burdens lifted, Jigu returned to conquer the tower. Floor 5 was a monster-free city base. Scale left him speechless. He marched past the very spot where he had once collapsed. Floor 6 fell instantly. Floor 7. The monsters begged for mercy. On Floor 8, the sheer number of enemies increased significantly. He slashed through endless waves, drenched in sweat and blood, but triumphed. Finally, he reached Floor 9's desolate cliffs. His companions pulsed with excitement. Du never dared to dream they would ever reach this height. He recalled the advice. Level isn't everything. Never give up on your potential. He once thought it was nonsense, but now he knew the truth. His rings glowed. 𝐀𝐿 had gained massive levels during the climb. Progress was slower sharing experience, but their synchronization made him invincible. 𝐀𝐿's legendary strength had withered away after eons of sealing that ancient, terrifying demon. The demon's memory was a total void. It was that colossal eye, its true hidden form. Analyzing 𝐀𝐿's stats, 𝐁𝐞 realized he needed more egos to reach god-tier power levels. Du questioned the hunt's location. Jigu smirked. The high-stakes auction house was his next target. The auctioneer's voice boomed. An item just sold for 170,000 gold. Hidden in the crowd, Jigu waited for a signal, but his egos sensed absolutely nothing. Disappointment stung, but egos were rare. Then, the grand finale was finally unveiled on stage. The main event. A healing necklace capable of skyrocketing a player's recovery speed instantly. Chaos erupted. Suddenly, Du and 𝐀𝐿 screamed in unison. "That's a real ego, master." Dusk fell as Jigu trudged away. The auction world was far more brutal than expected. "Why was it so expensive?" 𝐀𝐿 chimed in, reminding him it was the knight's crown jewel. 𝐀𝐿 mocked his empty pockets. Instead of exploding, Jigu let out a bone-chilling, twisted grin. He had a secret win. His paralyzing dagger just fetched 100,000 gold. Du cringed at his creepy face, but Jig's smile stayed fixed. "I love you guys." Terror seized them. Du trembled, wondering if their master had finally snapped and gone insane. Later, Jigu exited the supermarket while his phone buzzed with a call from 𝐂𝐻𝐻. He admitted finding a guild was impossible since his last gate raid was a disaster. Handling toxic teammates was exhausting. 𝐂𝐻𝐻 exploded, furious that Jigu ignored his warnings again. Jigu argued it was just an F-rank gate. Without gear, he's just a level 1 weakling. He simply had no other choice left. As the light turned green, he signed off, reminding 𝐂𝐻𝐻 to pay for their dinner. After hanging up, Jig's expression darkened as he began to brood like a weary man. Tower climbing was slow due to Du's blood absorption. Gates offered far quicker, massive profits. With a heavy sigh, he brushed it off. At least the immediate crises were handled. He shook his shopping bag, grinning at the thought of a luxurious beef dinner tonight. 𝐀𝐿 noted Jig's extreme frugality. Du blurted out, "You mean he's just a total cheapskate?" Jig's vein popped. When was our last etiquette lesson? Terror instantly flooded Du's traumatized memories. Du apologized immediately, playing the innocent child. Truly, the path of earning gold was treacherous. He needed a mountain of gold quickly to move Du Young to a fortress of safety. Under the veil of night, a spatial rift suddenly tore open right before Jig's eyes. The rift expanded, glowing with an ethereal light that left Jigu completely speechless and stunned. Brilliant azure light flooded the area as overwhelming power radiated from the rift's swirling core. Was this a gate? What was the protocol when a spatial anomaly manifested like this? Rule 1. Remain calm. A newly forming gate poses no immediate threat to the surroundings. Call emergency services and evacuate immediately. Rule 2. Entering an unranked gate is absolute suicide. Unauthorized entry carries a 5-year prison sentence or a 10,000 gold fine. No exceptions. Rule 3. Always record evidence. Conflicts often erupt when multiple parties claim discovery before the Hunters Association. Can it verify it? The first discoverer gains the exclusive right to lead the gate's very first conquest mission. These rights are tradable. signed the Player Association's Gate Management Bureau. Meanwhile, Otis was buried in paperwork when a high-priority gate alert flashed on his monitor. It was right near Jig's house. Curiously, he sipped his coffee and checked the reporter's name. He nearly choked Jigu. His roar echoed throughout the entire office building in shock. Later, at Jig's home, an association official packed his gear and delivered the ultimatum. Fail to enter within 5 days and your conquest rights go straight to the auction block. He then reminded the young man to strictly follow every safety warning he had provided. Expressing his gratitude for the swift report, he finally turned and called out for 𝐀𝐻𝐿. 𝐻𝐿 nodded in approval before requesting a private moment to speak with Jigu alone. At a nearby cafe, Jigu watched 𝐻𝐿's strange brew, fearing it might be far too sweet. Crediting this aroma for the flavor, he stirred the drink and downed it instantly. He slammed the empty glass down, making his ID badge rattle violently against his chest. Then, 𝐻𝐿 turned to Jigu with a sharp, inquisitive gaze. "That Evan Gate. Are you really going in alone? Where does this reckless confidence of yours come from?" Jigu smirked, impressed by how well 𝐻𝐿 knew him. "I'm stronger than you realize," he replied. 𝐻𝐿 doubted that, but he knew Jigu was stubborn. Jigu could only offer an awkward laugh. Looking like a parent dealing with a rebellious child, 𝐻𝐿 asked about his current floor progress. Jigu revealed he cleared floor 10 today, but he kept his actual power level a secret. Deep down, 𝐻𝐿 likely already knew the answer to that question anyway. 𝐻𝐿 paused, then gave him 4 days. "Prepare yourself thoroughly before you come to see me." He needed to test Jig's solo capabilities. He wouldn't let an unprepared boy walk into death. 4 days later, 𝐻𝐿 led him into a blue chamber filled with an array of weapons. Jigu was stunned to find such a massive training facility hidden beneath the Hunter Association. "This was once a combat facility," 𝐻𝐿 explained, "but now it's forgotten and left abandoned." Jigu scanned the room before stepping inside. The training area was far larger than he imagined. Everything was reinforced with barriers. He had clearly underestimated the true resources of this association. 𝐻𝐿 suddenly asked for his decision. Once again, extending the invitation to join their official ranks, he believed Jigu was ready to become a full member, or at least take a position. Jigu thanked him for the kind offer, but declined, unwilling to be tied down just yet. 𝐻𝐿 wasn't angry at all. Instead, he promised to welcome Jigu back if he changed mind. Jigu suddenly asked about Tayo, since the guidance department was disbanded. He wondered where he went. 𝐻𝐿 mentioned hearing that Tayo had recently joined the prestigious 𝐂𝐻𝐿. "That lonely guy looks much brighter now. It's like an entirely different person," 𝐻𝐿 added. Jigu felt relieved. Suddenly, 𝐻𝐿 rolled up his sleeves, revealing his muscular, scarred arms. Confused, Jigu asked where his weapon was. "Aren't we supposed to be sparring right now?" 𝐻𝐿 stopped and scratched his cheek. "Are you underestimating me just because I'm a civil servant?" Deciding to educate the rookie, 𝐻𝐿 suddenly threw a powerful punch into the empty air. The strike was so fast it left only a blurred afterimage in its wake. A violent whirlwind erupted from that punch, screaming toward Jigu like a raging invisible beast. Jigu stood frozen in shock. The sheer pressure of the incoming wind felt completely paralyzing. With a snap, more gales lashed out. The terrifying aura sent a bone-chilling shiver down Jig's spine. 𝐻𝐿's presence shifted. "A diamond in the mud is still a diamond. Never look down on me." A dense, overwhelming aura exploded from 𝐻𝐿's body, saturating the entire training room. He was clearly itching to teach this cocky young brat a very painful lesson. Stop barking and fight. Jigu knew he couldn't win, but he wasn't about to just stand there. Gritting his teeth, he immediately dropped into a focused, low-combat stance. "Please guide me," Jigu said politely. Suddenly, a dark premonition caused his eyes to widen. Before he could react, 𝐻𝐿's shadow loomed large with a foot hovering above his head. That heavy kick meant business? Jigu summoned his egos, slashing the illusion to survive. However, the impact force was absolutely astronomical. Despite his defense, Jigu was blasted backward. They locked eyes, the real battle only just beginning. 𝐻𝐿 narrowed his eyes, demanding to know if Jigu was truly prepared for the trial ahead. Gasping for air, Jigu remained silent. This man was a true high-rank hunter, radiating an aura of absolute power. Seeing Jig's exhaustion, 𝐻𝐿 snapped. Focus on the battle. Letting your guard down in a gate means instant death. The harsh words hit Jigu like a physical blow. He realized his own arrogance had clouded his judgment. But he wasn't reckless. 4 days ago, Jigu had secretly visited the notorious East Demon Player market. His egos, Du and 𝐿, were confused. Why seek new gear when he already possessed the best? To avoid unwanted attention, Jigu faked a phone call while consulting his hidden companions. My defense is pathetic, he whispered. I can't risk a surprise encounter with another ego like this. Surprisingly, Du relented, promising to alert him the moment another ego's presence was detected. Jigu scanned the stalls until a weathered, ancient-looking set of armor caught his keen eye. It was a basic iron piece of mere apprentice's work, offering a measly 9 points of defense. Jigu stared at the stats in disbelief, feeling a wave of pure disappointment wash over him. He checked the shop across the street, but the astronomical prices nearly made his eyes pop out. Every stall was the same meager, useless garbage or items priced at a king's ransom. Defeated, Jigu slumped onto a nearby bench, while his egos watched on in pitying silence. Life felt rigged, quality was unaffordable, and the rest was trash. Suddenly, his egos shouted in unison. Startled, Jigu snapped his head up, his hunter instincts instantly going on high alert. A crowd had gathered nearby. 2 men were aggressively heckling a young boy in the street. My grandfather is a master, the boy cried. The men laughed, mocking the master who made statless junk. Tears welled in the boy's eyes, but he stood his ground. He's the greatest craftsman alive. The men sneered, claiming the old man was a hermit who wouldn't sell gear even if they begged. They spat on the ground and walked away, leaving the boy trembling with silent, burning frustration. Jigu stepped forward, his voice calm yet firm. Hey kid, I need you to show me the way. He looked the boy in the eye, emphasizing his words. Take me to your grandfather's workshop. The boy's face lit up instantly. He nodded eagerly, leading Jigu toward the city's shadowed outskirts. Looking at the desolate surroundings, 𝐁𝐿 began to wonder if he had misplaced his trust in his egos. But Du and 𝐿 were certain. Look closer, Du hissed. Every thread that boy wears is an ego. 𝐿 chimed in, explaining that these were artificial creations pulsing with genuine hidden power. Du snapped at 𝐿 for stealing the spotlight.
No.
Just then they reached a humble, weathered storefront. The boy burst through the door, beaming with pride. Grandpa, I've brought a real customer. The old man scowled, reprimanding the boy for bringing guests. I told you to leave the visitors alone. He ignored the boy's protests, grumbling about him wearing those experimental handmade clothes again. Jigu stepped silently into the dim room, his gaze scanning the cluttered, dusty workshop. As the boy continued to argue, Jigu froze. Even Du and 𝐿 were paralyzed by what they saw. The room was overflowing. Every single piece of equipment in the shop was a high-level ego. 𝐿 gasped in disbelief, but Du quickly realized the truth. These were all semi-egos. They possessed immense power, but lacked consciousness. In the ancient tongue, ego meant the soul. Even so, the sheer scale of the power left Jigu rooted to the spot in absolute shock. Out, the old man barked. There is nothing in this shop for a commoner like you. He spat on the floor. I am sick of dealing with fools who are blind to true value. I'll buy them, Jigu stated firmly. The old man just waved him off in cold dismissal. A man like you couldn't handle these, he sneered. Jigu countered. And if I can wield them... The old man scoffed, treating Jig's challenge like the ramblings of a madman. Just get out. Jigu didn't move. He began reading the stats of a level 79 nameless sword aloud. The old man froze, then slammed his hands down, his eyes wide. You can see its hidden status. Jigu admitted it casually, even wondering if the old man's eyes could truly see the truth. Di Chen let out a disbelieving laugh, his posture softening as he urged the boy to test its power. After all, a blacksmith's greatest joy is seeing their creation truly understood and utilized by another. Jigu examined the blade, mesmerized by its cold, lethal glint. Right then, he named its sharpness. The name hit Ji-Chen like a lightning bolt, leaving Minsu stunned. A suffocating silence filled the room. They stared at him like he was a total fool. The second-hand embarrassment was through the roof. 𝐿 quickly jumped in, claiming the blade rejected such a name. Jigu played along, desperate to move on. Back in the present, Jig's fighting spirit ignited. A crimson glow flashed within his eyes. He blurred forward like a gale, striking with absolute precision. With dual blades drawn, he closed the gap. Yet Tit stood there like an immovable statue. Jigu hesitated for a heartbeat before unleashing a heavy strike. But with a mere flick of his bare hand, Tit diverted the lethal edge effortlessly. Fury radiated from Tit. He had felt the hesitation behind that half-hearted swing. He demanded a kill shot, mocking Jigu for delivering nothing more than a pathetic itch. The failed strike left Jig's mind in a chaotic whirl, his confidence wavering. He forced himself to focus. This was a high-tier veteran. He lunged again, but Tit slipped away. He used 𝐿 to cut off the path, but the giant evaded with ghost-like ease. Another thrust followed, but Tit vanished, reappearing behind him as the blade carved empty air. Suddenly, a barrage of punches rained down. Jigu spun, desperately parrying before launching a counterattack. Tit tilted his body perfectly, his fists shattering the ground where Jigu had just stood. Jigu ducked low, then sprang upward, his blade tracing a deadly silver arc through the air. Tit's reflexes were monstrous. He pivoted 180 degrees, sliding behind Jigu once more. Jigu whirled, slamming his blades down, forcing Tit to leap back. The duel became a relentless dance. That's when Jigu saw it. Tit's eyes were brimming with pure, terrifying bloodlust as he lunged. Without holding back, Tit clenched his massive fist, pouring every ounce of strength into a devastating blow. In that split second, a memory surfaced. Jigu recalled his failure to sync with the new gear. He had doubted their true nature, eventually sighing and locking them away in frustration. His umbrella explained these semi-egos were incredibly picky, unlike 𝐿, who had no other choice. 𝐿 immediately protested, claiming he chose Jigu out of genuine affection, not desperation. Feeling defeated, Jigu tried one last time. Umbrella scoffed, calling him a mere mortal. Feeling utterly helpless, he placed his hand upon a piece of ancient-looking armor. He muttered the name "The End." Suddenly, a brilliant rainbow aura erupted, surging into his body. A system prompt flashed. The bond with the ego, the End, was finally established. His stats were too low to unleash its full potential, but for Jigu, this was enough. Stripped of its peak power, the armor sat at level 7, with 15 strength and 3 agility. It boasted 40 stamina and 6 magic, featuring a powerful passive damage reflection. As Tit's fists connected, the armor flared. The reflection skill ignited, blinding Tit with a terrifying radiance. Boom. A thunderous explosion rocked the area, the sound deafening and absolute. Jigu was sent flying through the smoke, his back crashing violently against the stone wall. His internal organs screamed in agony. He coughed up blood before collapsing, barely able to crawl. As he wheezed, something orange rolled toward him, a simple water bottle. More followed. Tit told him to drink up. These were high-grade internal healing elixirs. Slumped against the wall, Jigu stared. Who puts priceless medicine in such a trashy bottle? He tried to open it, but his hands were trembling too violently to even turn the cap. Then Tit spoke the words Jigu never expected. "You pass." He held up his scarred, wounded hands. The veteran was genuinely shocked. This kid had actually managed to draw blood. Recalling that explosive moment, he knew it was no fluke. It was a cold, calculated move. That smirk haunted him. He realized then he hadn't just been outplayed. He'd completely underestimated the man's true depth. Curious about that flawless execution, he pressed for answers. Jigu just gave a cryptic shrug. Preparation is everything. He didn't pry further, but issued a stern warning. If the gate remains uncleared in a week, the association takes over. Wishing him luck was just the start. By deployment day, Tessit's deadline had shrunk. He only gave Jigu 5 days. Failed to return, Tessit growled, and I am coming in there to drag your sorry hide back myself. Jig's lip twitched at the intensity. A bit dramatic, did not you think? He joked, trying to lighten the mood. Tessit was not budging. For him, a solo rescue was far simpler than mobilizing the association's entire bureaucratic machine. He turned into a fussing parent, obsessing over potions and smoke bombs. Do not underestimate this gate just because it is named. Jigu nodded along, hiding his irritation. After facing the undead, how much worse could this possibly be? Why all the panic? Jigu was not planning on making this his final resting place. He had things under control. He could not help but chuckle. The man was acting like a helicopter parent, worrying about every single microscopic detail. With time ticking down, Jigu stepped into the shimmering portal. Reality warped, depositing him into the damp shadows of a cavern. Ping, the system chimed, confirming his arrival within the gate's treacherous depths. Adrenaline surged. If this was a permanent gate, he'd hit the jackpot. Why, he thought. For the massive payday, obviously? How to identify one? Jigu pondered. There was only one certain way. Conquer the damn thing and find out. Since it is a named gate knot, a tower or labyrinth, this should be a quick, clean sweep for them. Let's move. Glowing with newfound power, Jigu charged forward, quickly coming face to face with his first monstrous victim. Lightning crackled around his fist as he buried a punch deep into a wolf's maw. A pained howl echoed through the cave. He slammed the beast into the stone floor, ending the fight before the creature could even blink. Total annihilation. Conversation over, he muttered coldly. But his victory was short-lived. From the abyss, dozens of crimson eyes ignited like demonic embers. The pack emerged from the shadows, a literal army of wolves, all hungering for revenge for their fallen kin. A bloodthirsty grin spread across Jig's face. Level up time. The golden wolves snarled as the system flashed a level up alert. Jigu charged, raining blows, while barely avoiding a stumble. Oh ding, cumulative damage bonus acquired. His momentum was unstoppable. A wolf lunged for his blind spot, aiming low. Jigu just smirked. He had seen it coming from a mile away. A blinding flash of energy erupted, vaporizing the beast. Finally, the dust settled, and a weary Jigu slumped down to recover. His ring scoffed at his fatigue. Weak human. Jigu ignored the sass, checking his watch to track their progress. 5 hours down. Despite the name's status, these monsters were nothing but mindless fodder. This was way too easy. Chomp, he bit into a snack, whispering to himself. Honestly, at his current level, he should not even be here. Pure luck, he muttered, finally tearing through his tough rations. His mind was already drifting to the future. Maybe it is time for a revaluation. But official rank tests ignore gear. They only measure your raw, naked power. Without his ego weapons, he was just a level 1 nobody. The testers would never see his true potential. Not even Otis could pull strings here. Honestly, what is the point of high rank if you cannot abuse it? Miles away, Otis scratched his itching ear. Someone, somewhere, was definitely talking trash about him. Cracking open his water, Gugu listened as the ego explained. Higher stats meant a stronger soul link across any distance. Sounds great, Jigu sighed between gulps. But I am still clueless on how to actually boost my core stats. Lu chimed in, only to get a flick to the head. Keep it up and I will really hurt you. Jigu threatened. Struggling to get stronger is one thing, Jigu muttered. But this user interface is a whole other level of confusing. A holographic window flared to life. There, buried in the skills list, was something truly bizarre. Cannibalism. Jigu froze. Eat ... people, Jigu stammered. The ring instantly read his twisted thoughts. Have you lost your mind, you crazy human? Jigu gave a nervous laugh. Relax, it was a joke. Pushing his exhaustion aside, he ventured deeper into the darkness. Checking his inventory, Jigu frowned. Full already? He definitely needed to invest in a high-capacity spatial storage bag soon. He spotted the stamina potions cluttering his pack. Might as well use them now and clear some much-needed space. Standing before this massive cliff felt like facing the gates of heaven itself. The ring warned him, its voice trembling. The killing intent here is suffocating. The boss. It is right ahead. With a nonchalant look, 𝐀𝐿 chugged his potions. Instantly, his strength and agility surged. Dual-wielding his blades, he pressed forward, wondering how deep into the dungeon he had wandered. The buffs won't last forever, he muttered. Suddenly, 𝐿 sensed a powerful presence nearby. Lu agreed the end was near. Through the gloom, a flickering light appeared. Could 𝐿 be there? Lu suggested investigating, but Jigu snapped at him. Lu scoffed. Only you can hear us anyway. 𝐿 scolded Lu for his rudeness. Pouting, Lu called the master arrogant and told him to handle it. This presence swallowed all gate energy. Unlike talent, it was pure malice. A true gatekeeper stood before them. Lu was impressed, while 𝐿 warned Jigu to stay alert. The crushing pressure was immense. This wasn't just another monster, it was a true hider boss. With eyes glowing crimson, 𝐂𝐿𝐿 charged at him like a streak of lightning. Jigu blocked the massive fangs with both swords before delivering a brutal counterstrike to its jaw. The wound was shallow, only fueling its rage. A powerful blow sent Jigu flying backward. He braced himself. Its defense was insane. Smirking, he realized he'd have to stack damage slowly. Facing the ferocious 𝐂𝐿𝐿, Jigu knew this would be a grueling battle of attrition. He lunged forward, blades blurring, but the beast vanished, dodging his strike with unnatural speed. The wolf leaped, bearing lethal fangs. Jigu reacted instantly, smashing the pummel into its face. A relentless storm of slashes followed. Driven mad with pain, the beast finally collapsed, defeated. He exhaled, the tension vanishing. Too close, he gasped as his potions finally wore off. 𝐂𝐿𝐿 stared back with a single eye. Jigu offered no mercy, delivering the final finishing blow. The system chimed. Gatekeeper 𝐂𝐿𝐿 defeated. Massive experience points poured into his stats. Ru feasted on the wolf's blood, causing Jig's agility to spike from the absorption. A new skill awakened. Indomitable will. He had reached a new level of power. Survival rates increased under heavy damage. As the carnivore skill activated, notifications flooded his vision. System alert. 𝐂𝐿𝐿 absorbed. The beast had been successfully converted into a unique ego. A shimmering blue stone fell from the sky. Jigu stared, wondering what had just happened. A monster turning into an ego was unheard of. Confused, he turned to 𝐿 for answers. But even 𝐿 was lost, apologizing for being unable to explain this mysterious phenomenon. Did Ru now house the wolf's soul? Ru remained silent, offering no confirmation at all. Jigu sat in stunned silence. This was uncharted territory. 𝐿 had never seen such a skill. Status check. 𝐂𝐿𝐿, Level 1. Class, Ego Partner. Unique Ability, Ego Synchronization. Unsure of how to trigger it, he recalled past failures and decided to test it later. The carnivore skill had yielded a blue crystalline treasure, far superior to any 𝐿 stone. Its massive value brought a grin to his face. Time to find the reward room, he cheered. But the entrance was nowhere to be found. Even the spirits were baffled by its absence. To enter, one must touch the gatekeeper's body. But Lu had already devoured every trace. Within this gate, the sun never set. In just 2 days, he had conquered everything. As Jigu searched for an exit, Lu suggested simply walking out to save time. Jigu refused. Any anomaly would draw unwanted attention, just like the incident in Guri. If a gate isn't properly cleared, a dungeon break occurs, he warned. The casualties would be catastrophic. He had started this, and he would be the one to end it properly. Responsibility weighed heavy. 𝐿 was truly moved by Jig's resolve. Lu ruined the moment, mocking him. Noble words, master. But who's cleaning up this mess? Flustered, Jigu snapped at him. Shut it. We have 4 days before things get truly ugly. He spent the 3rd day scouring the endless grasslands, searching for any remaining secrets. Should we just hunt everything left? He asked. Both spirits roared in bloodthirsty agreement. Doubling back, they scoured every path they had skipped, ruthlessly slaughtering every last remaining blue wolf. By day 5, the final wolf fell. 𝐿 offered praise, but 𝐂𝐿𝐿 remained trapped in a deep, uneasy silence. The boss should have appeared by now. He wondered if he'd have to shatter the entire cavern to find it. Suddenly, 𝐿 and Lu's voices rang out. Energy surged toward a single point, and a gateway materialized before them. As they stepped through the meadow portal, the scene shifted. Finding Jigu and Otis unwinding together at a bathhouse, steam rose around them as Otis questioned why Jigu had taken so long to finish the raid. With Jig's current stats, it should have been a 2-day job. Jigu admitted he'd slain the boss early, but complications arose. Otis looked puzzled, wondering what could possibly go wrong after the boss was already dead. Jigu explained that the boss's sudden disappearance glitched the reward room. Otis listened in shock, amazed Jigu even escaped. Jig's mind drifted back to the dungeon. Recalling the grueling process of hunting down every last monster, he had harvested mountains of crystals. Realizing the portal's core energy had concentrated exactly where the boss perished. Remembering that desperate moment, Jigu recalled pouring every ounce of his strength into one final frantic sprint. The portal light exploded, a sight beyond words as the entire world seemed to shatter and converge into one. A glowing golden sphere appeared in his palm. System chimed. You have obtained an ego fragment. Noticing Jig's sudden 1,000-yard stare, Otis snapped him back to reality. Asking what was on his mind, Jigu mused that the gate itself possessed an ego. Otis then changed the subject, confirming the rewards were processed. Over $50,000 had been wired to Jig's account. Grateful, the young hunter prepared to visit the hospital. Otis offered a ride in his flashy pink car. Though hesitant at first, Jigu eventually climbed inside. With a roar of the engine, Otis tore through the streets, radiating pure excitement behind the wheel. At the hospital, Otis spoke with Mrs. Lu Jin, while Jigu and Rudung stepped out to give them privacy. Otis played it cool as Jigu noticed Rudung yawning, immediately asking if she had eaten yet. He reminded her of the upcoming exams, but she just stretched, insisting she'd only taken a quick nap. He urged her not to overwork, but she teased back, asking for a bit of brotherly protection instead. An elderly woman approached, asking if Jigu was Rudung's brother. Rudung worriedly asked why she wasn't sleeping. The old woman smiled, saying she just needed a walk. Before reaching out to gently grasp Jig's hand, she thanked him sincerely, crediting Jigu for raising such a wonderful and kind-hearted younger sister. Praising his vibrant spirit, she turned to leave, but suddenly paused as if sensing something invisible. She warned of clashing energies within him, urging him to stay true to himself against the coming storms. Jigu stood frozen, confused by her cryptic prophecy, before eventually falling into a deep sleep at the hospital. The next morning, the doctor called Jigu aside to discuss the grim reality of Mrs. Breeze, Lugan's medical condition. Meanwhile, across the city, another gate flickered out, as a group of weary hunters finally returned home. They dreamed of cold drinks and rest, but stopped when they spotted the famous 𝐂𝐿𝐿𝐿 standing nearby. Their excitement vanished instantly when they saw the dark, soul-crushing expression etched onto Jig's face. Jig's mind replayed the doctor's words. His mother's condition was failing, and the medicine was no longer working. Time was their enemy. She had a year at best, but perhaps as little as 3 months remaining. Consumed by grief and self-loathing, Jigu threw himself into battle, cursing his own lack of power to save her. Lu and 𝐿 watched in silence, feeling the devastating agony radiating from their master's shattered heart. Jigu stood motionless under the pouring rain, a lone figure of despair before the 19th floor of the tower. The crowd whispered in awe as Jigu arrived, his gear overflowing with an impossible amount of monster crystals. Climbing 8 floors in just 2 weeks was unheard of. Some players approached, hiding their greed behind fake smiles. The notorious Group Z stepped forward, with one thug brazenly reaching out to help Jigu with his bags. In a flash, Jig's blade was at the man's throat, his killing intent so thick it paralyzed the thug. With eyes like a demon, Jigu told him to vanish. The commotion quickly drew the attention of the association. Group Z scrambled away in terror, throwing out one pathetic, hollow threat as they retreated into the shadows. An officer named Hyo-Sung-hun approached Jigu, requesting cooperation after seeing the red players targeting his loot. Sung-hun chuckled, sensing the truth. "Are you really the player, Kim Jigu?" he asked. Moments later, a stunned Gugu found himself in Otesit's office, calmly sipping tea. This meeting wasn't for idle chatter. Otesit held the key to saving Jig's mother. He spoke of Alicia, the miracle elixir, and a legendary cure with only 3 ever found. The first was claimed by the pioneer of Floor 50. Gugu knew the rest. 2 were clear rewards. Otis marveled at Jig's deep knowledge of the tower's secrets. "Then you already know," Otis smirked. The hidden connection between these twin gates. He meant the labyrinth gates, notorious death traps swarming with diverse monsters and lethal guardians. As hybrid gates, rankings didn't matter. Anyone with valid identification could challenge this nightmare. Otis dropped a bombshell. 2 days ago, the 3rd labyrinth gate appeared in America. Before Jigu left, Otis insisted he'd clean up. Jujin would faint seeing him so bloody. "I'll handle your loot with 0 fees. Leave the bag. Your payment's being wired." As the door closed, Otis slumped back. "Days like this make me crave a cigarette. Kim Hyung, I've done all I can." Gu soon met up with Hyo-Sung-hun. "The chief wants this handled perfectly," Sung-hun explained. "I'm your official guide now." Everything was set paperwork and rations. They were ready to move out immediately. But suddenly Jigu paused. "Wait, give me just one more moment." A system alert flared. Floor 20 clear. Skill evolved to AI synchronization. Class, Ego's companion. The link was established. Synchronization rank E allowed 35% of the Ego's power. Ranked skills were rare gems. Sun-hun frowned. Floor 20 usually took a full day. Jigu had conquered it in under 20 minutes. This was completely off the charts. However, Sung-hun kept his shock hidden, masking his growing disbelief. "When's our flight?" Jigu asked. He worried he'd wasted too much of their time. Sung-hun laughed. "We aren't flying. We're heading straight to the 5th floor." Jigu realized the Labyrinth Tower was more than a trial. It was a global nexus. They entered the association's branch office and stepped into a very peculiar elevator. Jigu stared in awe. He never expected such high-tech machinery hidden within the tower. "It's artifact-driven," Sung-hun explained, "powered by high-grade quartz for maximum efficiency." It was a marvel of engineering. Jigu couldn't even imagine the astronomical cost involved. The doors opened to the International Warp Gate Management Center, a hub of pure magic. These top-secret gates were guarded by global associations. Otis's influence was clearly terrifying. They stood before the gateway to America. The air crackled with immense power. "Let's use the world's fastest transport," Sung-hun grinned. Shangu stepped forward, heart racing. In a flash, they reached Los Angeles. Gil scanned the list of elite high-rankers joining. America's powerhouse, 𝐒𝐮𝐲, and Europe's pride, Athena, were both on the roster. Korea's own Monster King was there too, who wondered if he truly belonged among legends. The car stopped. "We're here," Sung-hun announced. "Behold, the hell of the modern era." The labyrinth of souls loomed ahead. From afar, a mysterious figure, Ba'an, watched Jigu. To Ba'an's eyes, Jigu looked pathetic. Level 1, 0 stats, and no visible talent. Yet Dong-sung saw something else. Jig's face it was exactly her type. Giant spiders swarmed. Jigu drew twin blades, parrying a massive web with pure skill. "Now," Jigu roared. He signaled Sung-hun to strike while he held the line. Sung-hun lunged with his spear, piercing the beast's skull. It vanished into digital dust. "Nice work," Jigu breathed. Is it already time for you to head back? Yeah, 15 hours have passed, Sung-hun replied. I need to go before time runs out. They shook hands politely. Sung-hun joked about a free meal later. He agreed, wishing a safe journey. See you in Korea, Sung-hun replied. With Sun-hun gone, Jigu marked his path. Deep in thought, a week later, 𝐂𝐻𝐿 crushed 3 giant spiders alone. Stagnation is death. To reach the boss, he needed stronger monsters. Jigu examined a strange yarn-like item. What could it be? It was Erika's Yarna, one-way ticket back to the entrance. A gift from Chief Tezet. Run if it's too dangerous. Survive. Jigu swore to keep it until the end. Suddenly a scream. His ring glowed, sensing something hidden in the shadows. Twin blades manifested, radiating power. A girl's voice. Jigu muttered. Du sensed a trap. Gu insisted on checking it out anyway. A potential threat loomed. Du and Eo finally agreed to investigate. Tied to a tree, a girl named Suyang screamed desperately. Suspicious. Why was a child alone in this deadly gate? An illusion or a lure, like a predator baiting its prey. Too risky. He turned away, but her voice stopped him. She sobbed about her mother's bills. Jig's heart sank. He froze. Du scoffed at that. Even a child wouldn't buy that. Her tears felt real. Jigu slashed the vines, freeing her. Safely hidden? He asked. Were you separated from your team? She admitted her mistake. Suyang was a rare, natural-born buffer. A 10-year-old player, unheard of. Far too dangerous for her. Yet her rare buffing skills were incredibly valuable to any team. They dragged her here for her power. Jigu offered survival gear. Use this. Help will come. But Suyang begged to follow. In this world, your life is your own responsibility, Jigu warned. I've done enough. I'm not that old yet. She begged. Jigu refused, but her desperation finally broke his resolve. They were a perfect duo. Jigu led the frontline assault. Suyang provided buffs while Du absorbed the loot. 2 weeks passed. I leveled up. Suyang cheered. I'll surpass you soon. Jigu sensed a shift. He cautiously peered around the corner. A massive guild approached. Fearing they'd attack, Jigu prepared to flee. The wall crumbled. A blade flew straight at Jig's head. Why throw your weapon? The guild member asked, confused. Nothing. Just a noise, he muttered. Gu and Suyang hid, panting. Why run? We did nothing, Suyang gasped. Jigu offered water. Tailing them is forbidden. They'll think we're planning an ambush. Is it that serious? Big guilds have many enemies, Jigu warned. She sipped water. New route? Jigu shook his head. Listen, kid. We'll keep our distance. Following experts means we're on track. Jigu noted the markings. They've left a trail everywhere. They've cleared the path. Now, we follow them to the boss. Suddenly, Suyang vanished. A chilling presence loomed. Something was coming. As a voice screamed for him to dodge, CL appeared like a vengeful ghost. Too late, Brett. I've got you now. Before Jigu could even blink, a massive hand seized him, slamming his skull violently into the dirt. Pain exploded as his face met the earth. I can't pass out, he thought desperately, before darkness claimed him. A stinging slap dragged him back from the clouds. Finally awake, you little cockroach? A voice taunted. Seal hoisted him up by his hair, his eyes cold. Start talking. Who sent you to spy on us? Jigu stared, paralyzed. Asterisk? I don't understand English. Is he asking why I followed them? Curse my lack of study. The man leaned in, his breath cold. Give me a name, or you're meeting your ancestors today. Jigu turned pale, screaming in desperation. Wait, I was just hunting. I wasn't spying on anyone, I swear. It was a total disaster of communication. CL scoffed, realizing the boy didn't understand a single word. A lackey hissed from the shadows. Don't listen to him, boss. He's definitely lying through his teeth. Jig's eyes darted to a long-haired man named Johan. Asterisk, he's Korean. Will he help his own blood? Johann sat down with an arrogant smirk, acting as if everyone should already know his name. He held up Jig's bags. I knew you were Korean once. I saw this expensive gear. After a long, cold explanation, he offered a fake apology for their aggressive hospitality. Our leader is in a foul mood, Johann translated. Jigu felt a spark of hope, thinking a translator meant peace. The interrogation began in earnest. What group are you with? Why were you tailing us? How did a weakling like you manage to slip past our leader's senses? Jigu pleaded his innocence. I'm just a homeless hunter. I don't have a guild, and I'm no master spy. I only followed because I thought it was safe. Why is everyone being so difficult? Johann gripped his blade, nodding as if he understood. Suddenly, he plunged the cold steel into Jig's thigh. Jig's scream tore through the air. Why is there no trust left between humans? Bound and bleeding, he was mocked for being pathetic. The insult stung even more than the wound. Watching Jigu writhe in agony, Johann sneered. I don't know what brought a weakling like you here. But stop the act. You weren't hunting monsters. You were hunting our precious elixirs. 𝐂𝐿 stepped forward, inspecting Jig's strange sword. This blade, I can't even see its status window. He stared at the weapon for 5 seconds, before scoffing.
Gotch.
Keep it for the furnace later. Johann looked at the blade with pure disdain, mocking it for being inferior to his own holy sword. He began pouring healing potions directly onto the open wound, his eyes glinting with cruelty. These are expensive, right? I'll make sure you stay awake for every second of this pain. Don't look so sad. I'm just helping you use these up since you're so extravagant. He leaned in close, his voice a freezing whisper. Now, whose dog are you really? In this world, the truth is rarely believed. When Jigu denied it again, another brutal blow fell. The captor's patience snapped. Do you think we're fools? They roared in frustration. We checked your stats. Even these ordinary ropes are enough to hold a loser like you. How can we believe a weakling is acting alone? Do we look like idiots to you? Lunch was called, and as a parting gift, Johann kicked Jigu in the chest like a soccer ball. Enough with the acting, kid, he spat, walking away to join the others. Left alone, Jigu spiraled into despair. His battle with 𝐂𝐿 had exposed how truly weak he was. He had been living a delusion, pretending he was ready to conquer the great maze. Without a weapon, he was nothing. Meanwhile, a white-haired girl tracked his mana signature from afar. She was only 2 kilometers away, closing in on the checkpoint with silent precision. She turned to a masked figure, awaiting orders. Jigu remained broken, tied to a small wooden post. The ground was a graveyard of empty bottles and blood-stained earth. Fingers severed 27 times. Bones shattered 63 times. Over 100 stabs. Endless torture. Whether it was sheer stupidity or an unbreakable will, Jigu had become a legend of stubbornness. 𝐂𝐿 sneered at Jig's defiance. Stubborn fool. Too bad you lack the talent worth scouting. He presented Jig's blade. I plan to melt this, but your tenacity earns you a final honor. A cold smile crossed his face. I'll use your own steel to send you to the afterlife. Be grateful, he mocked. I'll make sure your death becomes a legend in the next world. 𝐂𝐿 lunged forward. The blade pierced Jig's neck, unleashing a crimson spray of blood. Jig's eyes snapped open. The link was restored. A violent red aura erupted from his body. He shattered the pathetic chains effortlessly. Was free at last. Like lightning, Jigu struck back. 𝐂𝐿 froze in shock as the blade pierced him, stopping only with his bare hand. 𝐂𝐿 stared back, emotionless. So you were hiding your true power all along? I smell the Demon King's interest. You're nothing but a toy to her, you little brat. 𝐂𝐿 narrowed his eyes. How did you bypass the scan? Even the Demon King couldn't do that. Your luck has run out. It's time for a real interrogation. Jigu weighed his secret weapon. Suddenly, Athena's voice cut through the air. Attack! A streak of light pierced 𝐂𝐿's hand. It was Arrow A, the goddess Athena, had arrived. Athena laughed mockingly. Long time no see, you coward. You've grown quite pathetic. CL snapped the arrow in his hand. This is a declaration of war. Athena only chuckled. With a sharp swing, Athena sent her spear tearing through the air. CL slammed his sword down, summoning a massive shield. The collision shook the heavens. An explosion leveled the forest. Amidst the smoke, CL roared, "Capture Jigu alive." He shattered his shield with a single blow. Let's end this once and for all. Athena caught her returning spear, her gaze dark. CL raised his blade, signaling a final assault. Below the cliffs, the forest screamed. Nature itself was being torn apart by their power. Hanger watched the carnage. Are the gods truly clashing? This power is terrifying. Jigu stood, battered but firm. Do you finally submit? Orders say, I can't kill you. But an accident during torture is a different story. Before the words faded, he vanished into the void. He reappeared behind Jigu, his blade aiming for a killing blow. Jig's heart thundered. Full counter. He roared, catching the enemy off guard. The system flared to life. Damage reflection activated in a blinding flash of light. What the? A massive explosion rocked the earth, shattering the silence. As the smoke cleared, the arrogant hunter lay broken. He had finally poked a hornet's nest. He groaned in agony. Jigu gasped for air as the system reached its absolute limit. Chaos reigned. Jigu stood among the ruins while the system began to crumble. Jigu limped toward his fallen foe. The hunter, finally seeing his grave, begged for mercy. But there was no room for mercy now. Jigu drove the blade home mercilessly. As the hunter breathed his last, Jigu collapsed in exhaustion. It's over. ... But this power is too much. I can't stop the bleeding. A voice suddenly echoed through the darkness. Are you still with us, hero? A figure emerged. Was it Dudung? Watch it. It's Heeldung, not Dudung. She smiled a wicked smile. How will you repay me if I save your life? Slavery or a life debt? What will you choose? Jigu weakly raised one finger. One condition. We destroy ACL and Guild A together. That's two things, you greedy brat. But very well, let the pact be sealed. Jigu made one final request for the white-bearded man's sword. Staring at the unconscious Jigu, Sudung scoffed at his insatiable greed. Ba-an approached, his eyes gleaming with curiosity at the boy's potential. Monitor him closely, she commanded. A demonic power slumbers within his soul, waiting for the right hand to awaken the nightmare. Gesturing toward the blade, Sudung asked, Did you witness his lethality? That fool never stood a chance. That was no ordinary strike. He exploited every weakness with surgical precision. Despite it being his first time, his instincts were razor-sharp. Devoid of hesitation or mercy. Ba glanced at the corpse. What shall we do with this mess? He was a high-ranking official. His regenerative powers might still be active. Let him rot, she dismissed coldly. Survival is for the worthy. The weak are destined for the dirt. As her hair shimmered into a deep violet, she turned away without a second glance. Revenge is a dish best served slow, she mused with a wicked smile. A decade of hatred is just the beginning. She sensed the Demon King's arrival. But Ba Yan's mindless chatter only fueled her rising irritation. Only the pathetic fear that name. I will be the one to end him. Suddenly, Jigu jolted awake inside a crystalline prison. His mind a complete blank. The realization hit him like a physical blow. This was no dream. It was the same nightmare that had haunted his footsteps for 5 long years. A lone rope dangled in the void. It had vanished after meeting her, yet here it was, beckoning him from the shadows. He lunged through the shimmering veil, desperate to seize this hidden power, but his fingers closed around nothing but a common, rusted bucket. Flickers of memory resurfaced. The heavy door. The darkness of the well. The suffocating feeling of being trapped below the earth. He laughed at his own pathetic past. Was this truly the extent of the power he claimed to possess? A crimson shadow loomed behind him. "You utter failure," the voice hissed with pure venom. "You whine about barriers while begging for scraps of power. Whether forged through blood or found by luck, if you hold it, it is yours. Stop being such a pathetic weakling." As the voice faded, another figure appeared, confirming the harsh truth. "He's right, Jigu." Opening her arms wide, she whispered tenderly, "My strength belongs to you, Master. I never lose hope." Jigu snapped awake, gasping, as if escaping the grave. Ba-An watched him, leaving Jigu to wonder. Was this man an ally, or another shadow of the Demon King? Ba-An pointed to the sword resting nearby. As man and blade locked eyes, a profound connection ignited. Like two souls reunited after an eternity. "You're awake. Rest now. Your body has reached its absolute limit." The wounds are sealed, but movement could be fatal. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The sky bled a terrifying crimson, signaling a coming storm of destruction. Looking up, Jigu saw Susong suspended in the air. With a flick of her wrist, the earth began to scream. Colossal boulders rose like gravity had vanished. "What is that?" Jigu stammered. Ba-An grinned. "Behold a monster commander in the flesh. Meet the true sovereign of this nightmare labyrinth. The devastating monster commander, Ho Zone." Jigu stood paralyzed by the sheer scale of the beast. Beside him, Ba-An beamed with pride as he introduced the titan that ruled these depths. As Hozone roared, Jig's heart sank. Was he truly expected to survive against such a godlike monstrosity? Sudong hovered before the beast, a cold smirk on her lips. Suddenly, a massive gate tore open the fabric of reality, leaving Jigu utterly speechless. "Get over here. Stand by my side if you want to keep your head. Don't just stand there like a target." Droplets of blood fell from his palm, igniting into a swirling crimson barrier that shielded them from the impending chaos. Seeing Jig's realization, Ba-An chuckled. "So you do recognize a shield when you see one?" From the gaping portal, a swarm of winged nightmares erupted, shrieking as they dove toward Sudong. They moved like a plague, hungry for blood and destruction. Suddenly, a blinding light cut through the gloom. Sudong unleashed her hidden trump card. From the shadows emerged a jet-black blade, radiating a power that made the monsters howl in terror. Jigu watched in awe as she swung the obsidian sword. A single strike carved a path of ruin across the battlefield. It was a clash between deities. The darkness shattered as light reclaimed the sky, leaving a massive canyon in the earth that stretched for miles. Inside the reward chamber, Jigu clutched a small chest containing a rare elixir. His hands trembled. He had actually survived. But as the adrenaline faded, the victory felt hollow, like a fleeting illusion. Despite his success, a crushing sense of disappointment began to drown out his joy. Sudong approached him, smiling. "I keep my promises. You have many enemies ahead, but I suspect you won't be needing my protection anymore, will you?" When Jigu confirmed her identity, she nodded brightly. "I'm Korean, just like you." She then turned her gaze toward the rare medicine in the box. After learning Ba-An also received a potion, she handed her own vial to Jigu. The gesture caught him completely off guard. "Don't you dream of crushing the 𝐂𝐿 Guild? You're in no condition to fight. This will give you the edge you need. My path leads to becoming a commander. These trinkets mean nothing to me compared to my ultimate ambition. Consider this an investment in your future." Jigu stared at the vial, stunned that such a rare treasure was being handed to him so casually. "I can't keep being a burden. It's time to go all in and change my fate. If I take this, Du will never stop nagging me." Surprisingly, Du was just relieved that Jigu was finally using his head. Narrowing his eyes, he asked, "What's the catch? Planning to make me your slave for life or something?" Caught off guard, she smirked and replied, "Hardly, kid. I just want to take you in as my personal disciple." Jigu let out a loud, mocking scoff, making her snap. "Keep your voice down and show some respect. You're just a weakling now, but clear floor 50 and things change." Suzong teased, brushing his cheek with a playful touch. "I might just sponsor you then. Jigu shivered as a sharp sting erupted where her fingers had just lingered. That's our contract. Your old powers are gone. So listen closely to my instructions if you want to survive. That sword is quite cursed. Before the gate shuts, I'll teach you how to truly sharpen its fangs. Noting his shock, she urged him to down the potion. It's a dangerous gamble, disciple. Your first trial begins now. The forest was a graveyard of broken trees. The battlefield remained a chaotic whirlwind of steel and endless bloodshed. His hands trembled, but Jigu leveled his blade at CL. Ignoring the frantic warning screaming in his mind, "Don't trust her," Du wailed in terror. "Master, you'll lose control of your very soul at this rate." CL loomed over his captive, eyes cold as ice. "Ah, another one of your toys? You always did play dirty. Snatching the boss while my back was turned. How typical of a rat like you." 𝐂𝐮𝐩 laughed mockingly. "Finders keepers. Do it, Jigu." He wondered if he'd just made a deal with a literal demon. He could have lived a quiet life, but Jigu chose the path of fire and absolute madness. He charged, taunting the monster. "Hey, ACL, sending you straight to the afterlife today." CL bared his teeth, radiating an aura of pure dread that nearly paralyzed Jigu before the beast. Lunged like a god. Switched masters. Became her little dog. "You've always been a desperate loser, haven't you?" CL swung his massive blade with killing intent. "No matter. I'll reunite you with your ancestors in one clean strike." Death was inches away, but the elixir Jigu had gulped down was finally starting to burn through his veins. System. Re-establishing foundation. His vision fractured as a blinding light erupted from his pupils. As they waited for a miracle, Jigu just shrugged. "No big change. I just feel slightly less pathetic than before." "It's a potion, not a miracle drug," she snapped. "Give it time. You'll feel the transformation soon enough." Back in the heat of battle, Jig's gaze sharpened. A single breath now meant the difference between life and death. Time slowed to a crawl. Jigu counted the heartbeats. Dodging CL's lethal strike with a grace that defied logic. He danced backward, heart racing. I saw it. Every move, every killing intent. I can actually see them. 𝐂𝐮𝐩 grinned with pride. "Welcome to the big leagues, kid. You've finally taken your first step toward true mastery." Her warning echoed in his mind. A mere rookie could never hope to bridge the gap against these monsters. Luck is a fickle mistress. Can't expect to slay a dragon with a kitchen knife forever, you know? Through their mental link, 𝐂𝐮𝐩 whispered, "He wasn't careless. He just viewed you as a mere insect, until now. But that one move exposed everything your growth. Our connection, and the divine elixir coursing through you." CL's killing intent spiked. The holy sword Khan roared to life, aimed directly for Jig's throat. "Move, you idiot. Don't just stand there like a statue. Deflect it with everything you've got." He raised his blade just in time. Metal clashed, and Jig's sword erupted in an eerie, blinding radiance. Notification. Holy Sword E awakened. It began hungrily devouring the energy from the enemy's holy blade. Even the invincible CL looked shaken as his overwhelming power began to drain away into Jig's weapon. Jigu calculated his move, used the monster's confusion and the power drain to create an opening for escape. He leaped back to gain distance. Remembering the escape tool 𝐂𝐮𝐩 had pressed into his palm earlier, he unfurled the arachne silk, the shimmering threads instantly coiling around his limbs like a protective cocoon. CL recovered, charging with primal rage. "You think a cheap parlor trick will save you from my steel?" Jigu just smirked, flashing a middle finger. Before the strike could land, the silk activated and he vanished instantly. Left with nothing but shadows, CL roared in absolute fury. "A little piece of filth." CL's breath huffed like a raging bull. She glared around, sneering. "Shall we have a little heart-to-heart now?" Dark smoke swirled around her like hungry ghosts. As she smirked, Jigu unleashed his iron will. CL cursed the interference. Elsewhere, a battalion of tanks stood ready under an eerie red glow. A lone vehicle approached. Tite was 𝐂𝐿. The moment Jigu spotted him, a bright, genuine smile lit up his face. At dawn, Jigu coordinated with 𝐻𝐿. His mother was safely headed home. They promised to reunite in Korea. Then, Lugin woke, seeing Jigu, tears stream down her face. "I only wanted to see you once more before I died," she whispered. "That was my only wish. Thank you." Jigu squeezed her hand, but she gasped, desperate to reveal a hidden truth. A violent coughing fit cut her short. Without hesitation, Jigu poured the glowing divine elixir down her throat. A mystical, purple light enveloped her. Jigu exhaled in relief. "It's over," he whispered, before collapsing from sheer exhaustion. Du watched silently. "He has pushed himself far past his limits today," he murmured, acknowledging Jig's grueling journey. Io fretted over Jig's safety. Du countered. "We cannot interfere. Let him rest. Destiny will take its own course." As Jigu lay in a deep slumber, a brilliant radiance began to pulse from Lai Suan's body. She opened her eyes to a new life. Meanwhile, Dudung was fuming. Her calls to Jigu went unanswered. "A whole month gone," she grumbled, "and all I get is one lousy text message? This is unbelievable." She stormed into the house, her patience snapping. "Appa, are you kidding me right now?" "Ah!" she screamed. "You tell me to come home, then ignore me? I skipped class. You know how worried Mom was?" A gentle voice interrupted her. "Is that you, Dudung?" The girl froze, tears welling as she cried out, "Mom!" But then she blinked in shock. "Wait, ... Who are you?" Outside, the sound of laughter finally pulled Jigu awake. He sat up, the nostalgic aroma of his mother's soybean paste stew wafting through the air. His heart ached. Behind that door was the dream he had fought for, the scene he would trade his life for. He composed himself, wiping away any trace of weakness. I can't let her see me like this. I must smile. He opened the door with a grin. "Did you sleep well, Mom?" "Wait, ... Who is this lady?" He stood paralyzed. A youthful woman, looking younger than his mother ever had, smiled warmly. "Dinner is finally served." Later, Dudung listened in awe as Jigu recounted his battle at Heaven's Gate to secure the divine elixir. Even Jigu hadn't fully anticipated this miraculous, life-changing outcome. His mother hadn't just recovered, she was rejuvenated. Dudung wavered between joy and shock, jokingly demanding her own medicine. His mother looked at him with tender guilt. "You suffered so much for my sake, didn't you, son?" "I am so sorry," Jigu insisted. "It was nothing." The next morning, Otis arrived for a private talk. He bashfully accepted a gift from Jig's mother. Soon, the two men settled into a nearby pub to talk. Otis couldn't hold back. "Spill it. How did you get that elixir? It took everything not to call you." He knocked back a drink, but Kim Jigu went straight for the truth. "Are you interested in my mother?" Otis choked, spraying his drink everywhere. His face turned beet red. "Excuse me, what did you say?" "Your face is glowing," Jigu teased. "I've seen it before. I know you cared for her while I was away. And I know it is not just because she looks younger now. You truly care." Jigu gave a sincere nod. "You have my blessing. My father wouldn't mind her being with someone like you." Speechless and flustered, Otis quickly tried to pivot. "Anyway, let's get back to the real matter at hand." Jigu asked about a soundproof barrier. Otis confirmed he had one in the car but looked deeply puzzled. Jig's explanation was dark and complex. Otis's confusion quickly shifted into a roaring, uncontrollable fury. "It did what?" "Those bastards give me their address. I'll strip them bare myself." Jigu sighed, trying to calm his friend down. "I appreciate the anger," Jigu said softly. "But there is no need for you to get involved in this. I will crush those scumbags with my own hands." Otis nodded. "Fine. But remember, revenge must come from the soul." He brandished his chopsticks. "But first, eat. You cannot fight on an empty stomach. Meat builds the heart." Jigu blinked, confused by the sudden shift in tone. "What are you saying?" He then asked about Tessus. "I still have another debt to collect." "What is the status of the Guardian on the 4th floor?" Otis checked his intel. Suring Tamer squad was deployed yesterday. 37 experts. Enough to level any boss. The success report should arrive any moment, Jigu noted calmly. A man fled through the dark woods. Gu sighed, wishing to vent some stress. Gasping for air, the survivor panicked. The association, the C-rank team, they're gone. A monstrous roar followed. Silence fell as a final, blood-curdling scream echoed. Prioritize your health, a voice urged from the car. The elixir's effects come first. This wasn't a procedure any ordinary hospital could handle. Otis will manage it. Beside him lay the prize. The legendary elixir. Half the profits were delivered to Director O, exactly as requested. He nearly fainted. He laughed. But he accepted it to settle your debt. After taxes, 20 million remained, a fortune for a fresh start. I've scouted several prime estates north of the Han River for your family. The list is narrowed down. The final choice is yours. Any questions? Jigu blinked, bewildered. Wait. Why are you even handling our real estate? He snatched Jig's phone with a smirk. Is that all you're curious about? Per Otis's orders, I'm your new assistant. The name's 𝐂𝐿. Jigu stared. Was this guy always this ... extra? That afternoon, Soon-Hun helped with the bags. What's the plan for all this? 8 million in cash, Jigu replied. To settle debts and buy better gear. Sung-Hun's jaw dropped. Exactly how much was the total bill? 3.5 million, Jigu mused. That old blacksmith was crazy to trust me. I must have been just as crazy to accept, yet I survived. Deep in the forge, 𝐂𝐬𝐿 was interrupted. Grandpa, we have a visitor? Sung-Han waited while Jigu entered. Quan squinted. Jigu, you've changed so much. Greetings, master. Jigu bowed deeply. Hope you've been well. The funds arrived, Quan grunted, though it was slightly short. Gu apologized. Just a joke, Quan chuckled. That letter you sent sounded like a final will. I'm back to pay the rest. Jigu smiled. Quan shook his head in disbelief. I'd have written it off as a funeral gift, but I'll take it. Quan glanced at Jig's gear. The armor ... it's gone. Jigu nodded. Save me. Quan sighed, folding his arms. It did its duty. No reason for sorrow. Yet a masterpiece's end is heavy. Tell me, how did its final moments look? The next morning, Duyong saw them leaving.
Ow.
Where are you two going? Jigu mentioned the checkup. Suddenly she gasped. Wait, ... Did you get taller? At the tailor's, Sung-Han was awestruck. You're a natural model. Why not be a star? Stop it, Jigu muttered. Do you gain 3 centimeters in all this muscle? That elixir is divine. Can I have a bottle? Jigu sighed. My sister asked too. On the surface, it was subtle. But Jigu felt the massive change within. My muscles have reached their peak. This is what limit breaking truly feels like. A voice echoed, still a weakling. Jigu snapped back. Quiet, do. Later, Sung-Han checked the results. Your stamina. If this were 25 years ago, he smirked, you would have shattered every Olympic record. Jigu looked confused. Back then, standards were human. Sung-Han laughed.
Not that you'd know.
You're at physical level 10, he teased. Jigu glared, looking for a fight. Then, his face grew serious. Look at your mana control. It's high S-rank potential. He stared in disbelief. Jigu just nodded. To calm. Your way to calm for this? Jigu shrugged. I told you not to be shocked. 𝐂𝐿 snapped back. Give me some reaction, man. I'm telling you, your potential is legendary. Jigu sighed internally. It was old news. Suddenly, Otis swung the door open. Finished yet? I've got news. Your mother isn't just healthy, she's surpassed the vitality of any normal human being. But here's the real kicker. Even as a regular citizen, she can now equip and use items. Jigu shouted in shock. Otis checked his phone dismissively. Relax, I'll send details later. I'm here for something else. Why haven't you been out hunting lately? Gates won't clear themselves, Jigu replied. Hunting? Right now? I'm just ... recharging for a bit. Jigu lied. still absorbing 𝐀𝐿's power. "Forgive me, Master," the spirit whispered. "It's fine," Jigu reassured. Otis pressed on. "So, when are you back in the game? Next week, maybe?" Otis thought for a moment. "Then clear your schedule for next week." Jigu frowned. "Wait, what's happening?" "We lost contact with the C-Rank raid team. We're assembling Team B to head in next week." Jig's eyes narrowed. "So, the fourth floor guardian is still breathing?" Otis paused, his tone darkening. "That monster is hunting players to grow its own power." Jig's blood ran cold at the revelation. B-Rank subjugation teams were elite squads 30 members minimum, with over 60% being true B-Ranks. Yet Jigu, our main character, remained rankless even after consuming that legendary elixir. He was officially a nobody. Frustrated, Jigu stormed into the general manager's office. After listening to his venting, the manager finally spoke. "Just take the official rank assessment. You won't have to worry about gear restrictions anymore, kid. Your raw stats might be D rank, but your sheer potential, that is a guaranteed B rank easily." Jigu slumped onto the desk, exhausted. "Manager B rank requires level 100. I'm still level 1. Isn't this ranking system a bit too vague? Relying on potential alone seems like a massive stretch." Otis countered. "Call it potential, but it is about mana capacity and combat application. That's real power. Just look at the mutants. Levels mean absolutely nothing to those monsters, right? Levels are just numbers. What truly matters is how much your stats explode with every single level up. Besides, most players' levels are now classified as hidden information for security reasons. If Jigu took that test now, he would become the eye of a massive, unstoppable storm. A bloodthirsty guide who couldn't level up suddenly hitting B rank. The media would lose their minds." Jigu groaned. "I told you to stop using that cringe nickname." The manager just gave a sly smirk. Otis crossed his arms. "Controversy is inevitable. The press will label you the ultimate B rank prospect, guaranteed." Otis leaned in with a grin. "What's the matter? Don't you like the fame?" In truth, Jigu feared John Gui's watchful eyes. Too much spotlight was a death sentence for his secrets. Otis sighed at Jig's paranoia. He respected the decision, but his authority to bypass the system was limited. Jigu looked up, puzzled. "I thought you had a secret plan when you told me to clear my schedule." Otis looked genuinely shocked. "I never imagined you would actually turn this down. In this world, a high rank is a golden ticket to a completely different life." Seeing Jig's frustration, Otis slid a list of participating guilds across the table and made a suggestion. "Join one of these guilds temporarily. It is your back door into the subjugation mission. At the very least, I can pull some strings and act as your official mediator." Jigu scanned the name skeptically. "Who's going to recruit a complete stranger out of the blue? And if I leave right after the raid, I will just tank their reputation with high turnover rates." His eyes stopped on one name. The Morning Star Guild. Jigu finally made his fateful choice. Meanwhile, 𝐂𝐿 stood tall before his troops. "I have been appointed captain for this subjugation. We deploy immediately after roll call. I am counting on every single one of you to succeed." The crowd roared in agreement. "We're with you, Captain." And so, the march toward danger began. Giggle walked alongside 𝐂𝐿𝐿, who couldn't stop showering the young man with endless gratitude. "It's nothing," 𝐿 beamed. "We owe you our lives. I just wish our C-Rank guild could help more." Jigu simply smiled, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Just staying alive is enough. You've helped me enough already. It's just being spared from porter duty is a relief. If the chance arises, I'll definitely join the fray." The two chatted briefly before the topic shifted to Captain 𝐂𝐿, who was rumored to be ascending to the prestigious rank A soon. Jigu simply shrugged. He wondered to himself. Is reaching that rank truly such a monumental achievement? I mean, compared to the Demon King or 𝐒𝐿𝐿 suddenly? A mysterious voice echoed as if reading his very soul. "That woman is an anomaly," the voice rang out, intercepting Jig's private thoughts with chilling precision. "Why are your standards so impossibly high? As Jigu brooded, Kim-hun rushed over and grabbed his arm excitedly. "Mr. Guide, you look like you've completely transformed," Kim-hun exclaimed. Jigu blinked, utterly confused. "What do you mean?" Curiosity spread through the crowd. "He's right. Did you get plastic surgery or something?" Another player chimed in. "Hey, that's rude." Jigu wondered if he had truly changed that much. The voice returned, noting his aura was now entirely different. "Finally, you possess a presence that might actually leave an impression on others," the voice purred. Jigu gave a forced smile and explained, "It's not surgery. I just picked up a specialized skill back on the 5th floor. I guess I just grew a bit taller too." The mysterious voice mocked his pathetic and clumsy excuse immediately. "Wow, I'm so jealous. I had no idea skills like that even existed," one person sighed in genuine envy. "I wish I could find a skill like that," the voice scoffed and swore. "Are these idiots seriously buying that lie?" Jigu silenced the voice, and the group moved on. Unbeknownst to them, a rank B subjugation team had their eyes on them. Reaching the 4th floor, Dong Hakim issued his orders. "Search party, begin tracking the Guardian immediately. The rest of you, take this time to rest and recover your strength," he commanded. Jigu observed the group. Kim Seong-pil was the archer, Kim-hun the mage, Sung-woo the swordsman. But what about the name? Why call the guild Morning Star? In English, that's a mace, but no one here uses a spiked club. Seong-pil and Ji-won burst into laughter at the question. Seong-pil's face turned bright red as he shouted for them to stop. Sun-woo stepped in to explain. "Sun-kil chose that name because of you, Mr. Guide. When you left the cave to find help, he said you looked like a radiant star shining in the morning darkness." Seong-pil fumed with embarrassment. Jigu laughed. "Just speak casually with me now. I'm not your guide anymore, after all." Seong-pil perked up. "You're the same age as Sun-woo, right? Can I call you brother then?" Jigu agreed with a smile, but their peace was shattered by a group of thugs approaching with mocking grins. "Wow, the world really has gone to hell. I thought you losers were here for a literal picnic," the leader sneered. "Who are they?" Jigu whispered. Seong-pil replied, "That's 𝐂𝐿, a rank B player from the Jerk Guild. He's their representative for this hunt." Jigu wondered what their problem was, so Seong-pil continued his explanation. "They're infamous for their survival of the fittest mantra, constantly chasing raw power above all else. They claim to value tradition and hierarchy, but mostly they just demand absolute blind loyalty." He concluded that they were basically just archaic thugs. The bullies continued to provoke them. So damn useless. "I guess rank C trash can only do so much, huh?" Guan lost his cool, his voice low and dangerous. "What did you say?" The thugs sneered. "I asked if you were on a picnic. You're probably acting all high and mighty just for being in a rank B team. You should be the most alert ones here, yet you're just sitting around and gossiping like children. At the very least, try to be slightly more useful than the pathetic porters we dragged along." Though fuming, Jig's group tried to endure the insults. Seeing no reaction, the thugs spat in disgust and walked away. Jigu lowered his head as a dark, violent urge began to swirl within him. The voice screamed in his mind. "Master, calm down. Are you planning to commit a massacre? You need to control your emotions?" Jigu struggled to breathe. Was this a lingering side effect of the torture he had endured? He couldn't stop the killing intent. Suddenly, a calm voice broke through the darkness, snapping Jigu back to his senses. "Is there a problem?" Dong Hakim asked. Jigu masked his intensity. "Actually, I have a request for the captain. As the leader of this raid, I need to be fully aware of any internal discord." Dong Hakim stated firmly. Jigu saw his chance. "There was a slight disagreement, and that's why I need a favor from the raid leader." Dong Hakim stared at him. Jigu stood up. Pointing a defiant finger toward the group of arrogant thugs, "I want a duel with 𝐂𝐿. Let's settle this friction properly before the real battle begins." Onam's jaw dropped at the boy's sheer audacity. The crowd erupted in frantic whispers. "A duel? Are they serious?" Dong Hakim, sensing the tension, asked, "Is this truly a good idea?" The chasm between rank C and rank B was no mere step. However, Jigu had already accounted for that difference. "I'm well aware," Jigu replied coolly. "That's why I'm adding one more condition, you see. Morningstar's C rankers are just reserves. But 𝐂𝐿's B rankers are your main vanguard, aren't they? Real combat experience outweighs rank any day. So, if I win, our teams will swap positions." Jigu glanced toward the vehicle. Mr. Pill spoke up. "Forgive me for not asking, but please, trust my judgment just this once." Onam let out a mocking sneer. "Wait, who do you think you are? You've done nothing for us, so why should I agree?" Before he could finish, the protagonist shouted, 500 million. "If I win, you get 500 million. A fair trade, isn't it?" Oh, Nam's lackeys froze, turning to their leader in disbelief. "Wait, is he serious? Using cash to shut me up? I'd look like a fool to refuse such easy money. Besides, there's no way I can lose this." Dong Hai Kim stood aside, deep in thought. The raid was fast approaching. As the leader, I must prevent useless trouble. But if what I felt wasn't just an illusion, then it's time for some proof. After a moment of deliberation, he spoke firmly. "Fine. As the expedition leader, I authorize this duel." The two opponents faced off. Hai Kim set the rules: no weapons and no lethal strikes. The match ends upon surrender. Near the car, Mr. Pooh watched with bated breath. "Master Jigu." The protagonist gave a sharp nod, signaling his confidence. He glanced at Du for confirmation. "Is this distance sufficient?" "It is," Du replied. "As your power awakens, the link will expand further. Be careful, Master." Onam's face twisted with pure contempt. "Try to keep up, kid. It's no fun if it ends too fast. Now come at me." Jigu analyzed his foe carefully. B-rank hunter, yet he was riddled with openings. Is that his stance? Judging by his build, he's a typical close-range dealer. A B-rank power type, though he likely hides some inner strength. I need to close the gap and seize the upper hand immediately. No more testing, I'll trust my newly awakened explosive power. With a burst of speed, he lunged forward to deliver the first strike. Onam didn't even flinch. Is he that confident in his defense? Or is he waiting to trigger a counter skill? As Jigu surged forward, his mind raced. It's too late to pull back now. I'll evade his counter and prepare for the next blow. Without hesitation, the protagonist swung his fist. To his shock, the arrogant hunter didn't even try to dodge. A single blow sent him flying 100 meters. Onam collapsed instantly, foaming at the mouth. The onlookers stood frozen in pure shock. "Dong!" Hai Kim's voice rang out. "The winner is Kim Jigu." His team rushed over, cheering in a frenzy of excitement. "Brother, since when were you this strong? What's your level now?" Nam's crew scrambled to their fallen leader. "Boss, are you okay?" Dong Hai Kim still couldn't believe his eyes. That strike. I couldn't even track it with my eyes. Kim Jigu might just be the wild card of this entire conquest. Suddenly, a scout came sprinting back, gasping for air. "Leader, the search party has returned." Meanwhile, on the 43rd floor, Otisis was reporting the situation to the chairman. "This means an emergency B-rank squad has been formed and will deploy this Friday morning." The chairman scanned the guild lists. "Director, the basement training hall is our domestic gate." Recently, even Hyo Sung-han's secretary has been seen visiting the association's private hospital. It seems we've given these outside hunters far too much leeway. I expect a detailed explanation from you. Back with our protagonist, the duel was over, and the real expedition had finally begun. A colossal beast loomed over them, crushing hunters one by one. In this world, you must become well acquainted with death. But when the predator no longer looks like a predator, facing death becomes impossible to get used to. Dong Hai Kim charged first, putting every ounce of his strength into a massive sword swing at the Titan. His blade carved through the air like a crashing wave, striking the beast's back and fueling its primal rage. He roared a command to the unit's expedition team. "All units, Attack now. The leader's strike was the signal. While the mages unleashed their most powerful spells, the monster began to spiral into a frenzy. Immediately, the rearguard stepped up with earthen walls and shields, coordinating a massive assault on fours. This ironclad formation would successfully halt the Guardian's heavy strikes. Explosives rained down while long-range dealers unleashed hell from behind the shields. A simple yet lethal tactic. For 𝐁𝐸 was now trapped in a deadly pincer. Its total annihilation was only a matter of time. However, Jigu sensed a shift, warning 𝐀𝐲𝐿 to stay back and observe rather than charging. Blindly forward. Confused, 𝐶𝐿 questioned the caution, as they had already secured the dominant position on the field. But before he could finish his thought, the air grew heavy and still. A thunderous roar shattered the silence as the earth shook. From the thick dust, a terrifying shadow emerged. Jigu knew the fatal flaw. If this strategy failed even once, absolute chaos would swallow them whole. His fears were realized. For 𝐁𝐸 hadn't fallen, it had returned, radiating a power far beyond its previous state. Steel clashed against monstrous claws, sending Sung-woo flying. His comrades screamed his name in pure panic. Gritting his teeth against the pain, Sung-woo begged for cover fire as his allies rushed to assist. "How much time has passed?" Sung-woo gasped, feeling as if 30 grueling minutes had already slipped by. "Not even 5 minutes," his teammate replied. He could only marvel at Captain 𝐀𝐻𝐿's godlike endurance. Mid-battle, 𝐁𝐻𝐻𝐿 locked onto his opening and launched himself toward 𝐁𝐸 like a guided missile. He unleashed his Hydro Slash, carving through flesh, before pivoting to gauge the monster's reaction. His brow furrowed. The wounds were closing instantly, a regeneration rate rivaling that of a high-tier Guardian. Realizing the danger, he immediately ordered the first and second Vanguard units to swap positions. The support team braced for impact as 𝐀𝐲𝐿 turned toward Jigu with a worried whisper. "Get ready, Jigu," he urged. With a calm nod, Jigu began his steady march toward the nightmare. Seeing him approach the beast, Sung-woo screamed a desperate warning about the immense danger ahead. Jigu didn't flinch, even as 𝐻𝐸's jagged blades swept inches from his shoulder. He remained eerily calm. Suddenly, the monster's blade failed to connect. A knowing smirk played on Jig's lips. His theory was correct. The speedrunners had missed a crucial detail. 𝐻𝐸's attack patterns were identical to a standard low-level mob. To Jigu, the only real threats were its massive physical stats and its abnormal recovery speed. Memories of a past question surfaced. "What will you do with $8 million in cash?" "Pay off debts and buy new gear," he'd said. Now he was perfectly reading 𝐻𝐸's every movement. Victory was certain. This was the perfect arena to test the strength of his newly awakened ego link. Jigu moved like a streak of lightning, catching the monster completely off guard with his explosive speed. 3 deep gashes appeared before the beast could blink. This god-tier agility was fueled by his elite equipment. His level 45 gear boasted 30 strength, 18/9 dexterity, and 12 points in stamina. With 40 mana and a 15% speed boost, his skills, Garnish and Haste, were ready to bloom. Haste would maximize his speed over 5 minutes. After landing his strikes, he turned to face the beast. 𝐻𝐸 let out a blood-curdling scream as the wounds Jigu inflicted began to rupture across its body. Sung-pil and Sung-woo stood frozen, their voices stolen by the sheer display of Jig's overwhelming power. Even 𝐁𝐻𝐿 was stunned, a new strategy to end this nightmare flashing through his mind. "Its regeneration is too high," 𝐻𝐻𝐿 shouted. "Focus on deep strikes and save your stamina, Jigu." Jigu merely wondered if the recovery had hit its limit, as he touched the teardrop pendant at his neck. This was the teardrop, his most vital piece of high-tier specialized equipment. At level 51, it granted 19 strength and 67 stamina. Featuring the deadly Mortal Wound passive, while boosting mana recovery, Mortal Wound ruthlessly crippled the enemy's ability to heal their injuries. After a moment of silence, 𝐻𝐸 let out a feral roar, lunging forward in a desperate, bloodthirsty rage. "What's happening?" a player cried. Is it changing its attack patterns again? No, Jigu smirked. It's just a cornered beast in its death throes. He vanished, reappearing behind the creature. Everything was going according to his predictions. Jigu unleashed a relentless storm of steel upon the monster. The crowd could only watch in awe as Jig's blade carved a path toward a certain victory. Jig's blade flashed like lightning. Its relentless strikes left 𝐿𝐿 defenseless. With a swift leap, he retreated to watch his foe. The beast stood frozen, seizing the moment. Jigu delivered a brutal horizontal slash right across its eyes. To him, an ordinary monster was just fodder, no matter the level. This creature didn't intimidate him at all. Before the eyes of every player, Jigu successfully finished 𝐿𝐿. A heavy silence fell as everyone stood in absolute shock. He had done it alone. System chimed, confirming the death of a low-level demon. Jigu froze, realizing 𝐿𝐿's true nature. The Demon Eater's skill had been activated. The sudden announcement sent ripples of disbelief through the crowd. Every eye was fixed on Jigu. The system declared that 𝐿𝐿's arrogance had led to its ultimate downfall. Shards of the fallen demon's pride were absorbed into Jigu. As 𝐿𝐿 perished, the thick veil of dust finally cleared. 𝐂𝐿𝐻𝐼 stood stunned for a moment. He quickly recovered and ordered the injured members to focus on healing. He told the others to gather their gear. He warned everyone to keep their guard up and stay sharp. They all obeyed instantly. Then 𝐂𝐿𝐻𝐼 called out to Jigu, asking to speak with him in private. Jigu followed him to a secluded spot. Suspected Kim wanted to discuss the missing guard's corpse. He feared 𝐻𝐼 might blame him for the disappearance of the spirit stones and valuable loot. But he dismissed the thought quickly. Without any evidence, Kim couldn't possibly pin those losses on him. If that wasn't it, then why the private meeting? The answer came sooner than he expected. 𝐂𝐿𝐻𝐼 finally spoke, inviting Jigu to join his guild. Jigu breathed a sigh of relief. It was just a recruitment offer. He politely declined, stating he wasn't looking to join any guilds. 𝐻𝐼's face showed a flicker of deep regret. He smiled, hoping to stay on good terms. Handing over his card, he said, "Call me if you ever change your mind." As evening approached, 𝐻𝐼 thanked the players for their incredible hard work during the raid. Jigu approached 𝐂𝐿𝐻 with a question. He asked why he hadn't joined the famous 𝐂𝐮 guild yet. He believed that with his talent, 𝐂𝐿𝐻 would have reached great heights within their ranks. 𝐂𝐿𝐻 laughed, explaining he wanted to earn success on his own. He then turned the question back to Jigu. He was certain major guilds would hunt for a talent like Jigu. Hearing this, Jigu fell into a quiet, pensive mood. He chuckled and said it was nothing special. Just then, Du Sung-woo invited them both for dinner. Jigu declined. "Next time. I have to head home and pack my things today." Before leaving, he promised to call later. As he checked his phone, a message from 𝐿𝐿 flashed on the screen. 𝐿𝐿 told him to call once the raid ended. Later at his house, 𝐿𝐿 revealed the association chairman wanted to meet. The chairman of the Korea Player Association was a legendary self-made man, a figure shrouded in mystery. Other details about him remained a secret. Jigu wondered why such a powerful man wanted to meet him at 𝐿𝐿's place. On the 10th floor, 𝐿𝐿 mentioned the chairman wanted to cook for him. Jigu still felt confused by the strange invitation. 𝐿𝐿 opened the door to the apartment and walked in. He casually greeted the chairman, calling him an old man. The chairman greeted him back. 𝐿𝐿 started teasing him immediately, only to be told to shut his mouth. 𝐿𝐿 asked about the menu while the chairman told him to set the table. Finally, Jigu saw the man's face. He was a man in his 50s. At first glance, he exuded the refined elegance of a successful gentleman. The chairman was busy complaining about how 𝐿𝐿's home looked exactly like a messy pigsty. Seeing Jigu, the chairman reached out for a handshake. Jigu introduced himself politely, keeping his tone respectful. Suddenly, an overwhelming aura radiated from him. He introduced himself as Taego, the leader of the Korean Player Alliance. Jigu realized that heavy pressure was proof. Taego didn't become the leader of the Awakened by mere luck. 𝐿𝐿 urged him to go easy. Jig's eyes widened. Taego was actually 𝐿𝐿's father. The meal Taego prepared was magnificent. As Jigu ate, Taego mentioned he had heard much about him from his son. He noted that Tessis seemed to have helped Jigu a lot. Jigu agreed, acknowledging Tessis's immense support. Tessis grumbled at his father to let Jigu eat in peace. Taego acted innocent. Then suddenly his expression turned serious. He told Jigu he had a specific job for him. Jigu paused, swallowing his food before responding. He asked what the job was. Taego revealed his company wanted to hire him. Jigu immediately declined any guild ties. Taego cut him off. He wasn't asking for loyalty. He wanted Jigu to be the association's elite mercenary. As night blankets the city, Jigu returns to his sanctuary, the heavy echoes of Tessis's words still ringing in his ears. Tessis insisted his stern father wouldn't force compliance. Yet he offered a prestigious title to ensure Jigu received the association's full backing. Considering the circumstances, Gu's proposal seemed advantageous. After all, Tessis's reassurance carried significant weight in his decision. He meticulously weighed his options before committing. The persistent questions from Sung-hoon earlier that afternoon still lingered in his mind. Thoughts of the Kin Guild haunted him. While he remained stuck at level 1, Sioku had already risen to lead a top 10 powerhouse. Feeling heavily indebted to Sioku, Jigu refused to become a liability. He vowed to stop leaning on his friend's strength. His ultimate goal was to stand as an equal. Jigu had sworn a solemn oath to reunite with Sioku within the tower. Elsewhere, a violent explosion rocked the forest. A mage player snarled in fury, having let their primary target slip through their fingers. The armored warrior stepped forward to finish the job. Suddenly, the mage hissed a warning. Their lethal prey had finally arrived. A saber-toothed tiger lunged from the shadows. The armored player didn't flinch, meeting the beast's charge with a devastating, sweeping blade. With the beast slain, the mage questioned their next move. The warrior demanded they hunt down at least 2 more of these monsters. Suddenly, a supernatural chill gripped the air. The mage shivered, confused as floor 26 was supposed to be a scorching wasteland. They halted at the hill's base when the mage suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream of pure terror. Before them lay a graveyard of frozen monsters. The entire landscape had been transformed into a desolate, icy tomb. A voice called out to the guild leader. He reported to Sioku that the specific target they sought was nowhere to be found. Sioku rose and commanded the group to advance. Meanwhile, at the hall, the announcer began profiling a legendary weekly player. Last weekend, the Angela Guild stunned the world by announcing their intent to conquer the daunting Floor 80. Leading the charge were Tioli, a top-tier global contender, and the mysterious powerhouse known as 𝐂. Their recent surge in the March rankings proved that South Korea had become a breeding ground for world-class players. This momentum led to the creation of an exclusive event tailored specifically for the world's elite high rankers. The highlight of the evening, the grand entrance of the living legend himself, the one known as Asura, even among the original 5 progenitors of the game. The true identity and origin of Asura remained a total mystery. Jigu questioned the stranger about this enigma. He knew nothing, not their age, gender, or even their nationality. The man dropped a bombshell. That legendary figure was actually Jig's grandfather. Before him stood the enigmatic Otisis. Realizing he was the grandson of a titan, Jigu was stunned. Otisis warned him to keep this classified information strictly confidential. Otisis presented a ring, causing Jigu to panic and suspect a proposal. He was promptly berated for being an absolute idiot. Otisis clarified it was a unique identification item, a mandatory tool issued to high-level mercenaries for official recognition. This ring granted Jigu director-level authority. To assist him, Soon-hun was officially assigned as his personal secretary. Jigu was now entitled to high-ranker privileges regarding the tower and gates. Every successful mission would now yield massive rewards. The association offered to buy his loot at full price, and he now held the power to reject any mission he disliked. Overwhelmed by the sudden windfall of benefits, Jigu could only marvel at his incredible stroke of luck. At the 𝐒𝐮𝐩 headquarters in New York, Jer sought an audience with 𝐂𝐿. Barely a greeting passed before 𝐁𝐞𝐜 fell into a fit. 𝐂𝐞𝐜 inquired about his health, but 𝐁𝐞𝐜 ignored the concern. Instead, he desperately pleaded for an immediate transfer to South Korea. 𝐂𝐞𝐜 agreed, opening a Korean branch with 𝐁𝐜𝐜 as director. He granted him total freedom for revenge and the 9 Holy Sword. At the mention of number 9, 𝐁𝐜's eyes lit up. He bowed in deep gratitude, finally possessing the tool for his vengeance. Little did 𝐁𝐜 know, he was merely a pawn in 𝐂𝐞𝐜's grand scheme. Meanwhile, Jigu sat in the car, fixated on his sword. The weapon had grown immensely powerful after devouring Canyon, yet Jigu still struggled to unlock its full potential. He questioned 𝐸, but despite her awakening, her memories remained fractured and incomplete, leaving him without any clear answers. Turning to Du, he asked about the soul fragments harvested from 𝐂𝐞𝐿's essence that still remained unused. He wondered how absorbing fears had changed Du. Before Du could answer, Sung-hoon asked if Jigu had changed his hair. Jigu gave a casual smile, claiming he simply trimmed it down because it had become a bit too unruly. Du suspected that Sung-han might actually be eavesdropping on their private conversation. But Jigu dismissed the possibility entirely. Jigu pressed Du again about the fragments, only to receive another useless answer. He sighed, wondering why he even expected more. Suddenly realizing he didn't know their destination, Gu turned to Sung-han. They were heading toward a unique gate in Yosu. The gate's energy levels were erratic, fluctuating wildly between rank F and C. Jig's task was simple: eliminate the anomaly. Jig's pulse raced. His first mercenary mission was finally beginning. Sung-han joined the intel run. On the highway, Jigu remembered his little sprouts. A revelation from Sung-han. The association was assigning him a code name. Grand titles like Asura or Demon King danced in Jig's imagination. The verdict, the pestle, a ridiculous name, yet his children would surely love it. Sung-han's mocking smirk broke Jig's composure, sparking a flare of silent rage. Mid-snack at the gate, a stranger approached Jigu with a formal greeting. Naturally, they addressed him by that pestle moniker. The director's deep bow brought instant embarrassment. "Just use my name," Jigu pleaded. Beside him, Sung-hoon was still desperately fighting back his laughter. "Is it that funny?" Jigu snapped, finally forcing the focus back to business. A unique gate, untouched and mysterious, had manifested only days prior. Sung-han stayed focused on the objective, inquiring about the available personnel. A B-rank strike team was ready, their equipment prepped and waiting. As the others strategized, Jig's feet moved instinctively toward the swirling portal. Panic shouts erupted as they scrambled to hold the reckless mercenary back. Entering a unique gate solo was a gamble bordering on sheer madness. Jigu ignored them. One touch to the gate, an ancient stone began to shatter. "Contact headquarters. Request immediate backup from the nearest guilds." It was an ego. The system flickered. Connection link accepted. Chaos reigned. "Is there any word from the capital yet?" 15 minutes until backup. Jigu hesitated, his hand hovering over the sentient gate. Before the link finalized, Sung-han lunged forward, dragging Jigu from the vortex. Face to face with the handsome Sung-han, even the thick-skinned Jigu felt a blush. Behind them, the onlookers watched the heroic rescue in awkward silence. Escaping the distortion, Sung-han hauled Jigu into a makeshift container office. Sung-han's lecture was fierce. Gu, knowing his fault, stayed perfectly still. "First, a gate overflow. What nightmare will you trigger next?" Sung-han sighed. "Taming monsters now?" Jigu just scratched his head, equally puzzled by the event. "The gates stabilized," Sung-hoon noted. "Was that truly a near overflow?" Jigu remained uncertain. It was his first time. Perhaps Du's unique skill had caused the anomaly. Sung-han dropped the subject, handing Jigu a traditional smiling mask. "Reporters and emergency hunters are incoming. You need a disguise." To avoid the press, Jigu donned the absurdly cheerful traditional mask. The mask itself wasn't the problem, but the lipstick that was humiliating. Regardless, Jigu would enter the gate alone. Despite the protests, the association cleared his solo path. Mercenaries truly were elite. "Are you certain about going in alone?" Sun-Han asked, his voice heavy. "It's my unique ability," Jigu reassured him. "Just hold the perimeter." Accepting the link, Jigu vanished into the shimmering depths of the gate. Under the silent moon, a system message appeared. "Prove your worthiness." This was different from naming Io and Du. A true trial had begun. Du huffed, feeling insulted by Jig's casual comparison. "Mask off." Jigu turned to his summons. "Shall we clear this place?" Du agreed, "Kill everything first." The eerie, desolate night made Jigu tremble. Io sensed a damp, stagnant mana. Du, however, felt right at home. Jigu searched for the mana source. Du stopped him. It was unnecessary. Suddenly, movement ahead. An army of skeletons emerged from the shadows. Among the ranks, Jigu spotted a legendary headless knight, a real Delahan. Facing a mini-boss this early felt like overkill. Battle mode engaged. Jigu called for a speed boost from his allies. Like a lightning bolt, Jigu tore through the bone-chilling horde. "Off with his head!" Jigu cried. Du yelled, "He has no head!" Steel clashed with spears. Soon, Jigu stood over a pile of dust. The graveyard fell silent, yet Du sensed something was horribly wrong. That boss was too weak, Du noted, for a gate this powerful. Jigu nodded in agreement, though the true threat remained hidden. His eyes locked onto a central tomb. The real master waited there. "Be careful," Du warned. That night was merely a weak herald. Eerie blue light erupted. Jigu drew his sword, ready for war. A robed skeleton rose. The gate's entire mana was concentrated within it. The creature let out a haunting, distorted screech that shook the air. A necromancer, a high-tier monster usually found past the 60th floor. The Lich spoke first. "Do you wish to become my master?" Stunned, Jigu watched as the undead creature pointed directly at him. Then it clicked. Its gatekeeper spoke with the voice of the system. "I'm here to conquer you," Jigu roared, questioning the monster's identity. Unfazed, the Lich claimed to be the master of these ruins. As Jigu puzzled over its voice, the monster's fingers began to twitch. Sensing an attack, Jigu signaled his team. A wicked staff appeared. "Prove your worth as my master," the undead lord commanded. Destructive mana surged from the staff before Jigu could even move. A lethal orb of fire closed in. Jigu cursed it was too fast. An explosion rocked the earth. Through the smoke, the Lich advanced. "Watch out!" Du cried. Jig's gaze turned cold and deadly serious. "Is that all?" the Lich mocked, summoning a dozen more staves. Pressed down, Jigu watched the light converge, then his blade flashed. With one swing, he shattered the spell. "Give me more power." The barrage was relentless. Jigu couldn't afford a single mistake now. "Du, remember the grenades?" Jigu smirked, ignoring her sudden panic. Du sensed disaster, but Jigu had already launched her like a missile. Using Du as a springboard, Jigu vaulted toward the skeletal mage. He gripped Io, pouring every ounce of strength into one strike. But the Lich was fast. It blocked the blow with effortless ease. "Weak," it sneered. But Jig's true move was just beginning. He twisted midair, burying his blade deep into the Lich's chest. The monster shrieked in pain, yet it stood firm, annoyed by Io. Thousands of lights filled the sky, all aimed at Jig's head. There was no escape. Seeing the danger, Io offered a seal. Jigu made his choice, summoning Io to the front. Du fumed in the background, but Jigu knew its attributes weren't suited for this shadow operation. Du remained indignant, convinced those swirling dark blades were nothing compared to its own. Legendary power. Jigu stood firm. Now wasn't the time for uncertainty or testing unproven theories. Jig's gaze sharpened. The dark blades were accelerating, pushing his defenses to their absolute limit. Driven into a corner, Jigu finally called upon Du. To his query of certainty, the blade responded with unwavering confidence. As Jigu swung the blade, the system flared. Du was devouring dark energy. It was becoming the true lord of dark sabers. A sacrifice was required for total awakening. Suddenly, dew erupted with terrifying power, bathing the horizon in a blood-red glow. This overwhelming aura reached the necromancer. He couldn't fathom how a mere mortal like Jigu possessed such monstrous strength. Finally, he acknowledged Jig's worth. This warrior wasn't just talk, he possessed the soul of a true king. Yet, the trial wasn't over. To test his master, the necromancer unleashed his ultimate trump card. Shattering the very earth, hands clawed through the soil as those who should be resting eternally crawled back into the light. The restless dead merged, their twisted bodies forming a colossal mountain of bone and flesh. That loomed over Jigu. Jigu had questions about this lord title, but time had run out. A massive living golem now stood before him. Perched atop its head, the necromancer commanded the beast. Its massive fists descended, causing the entire world to tremble. One direct hit would mean certain death. The necromancer intended to crush Jigu under the sheer weight of his creation. In the heat of the moment, Jigu commanded both Do and Io to go into overdrive. Fueled by their combined might, Jigu soared over the golem, closing in on the necromancer with a defiant, arrogant smirk. As Do and Io tore through the mage's spectral form, he finally surrendered, accepting Jigu as his rightful sovereign. Simultaneously, the system announced the gate's successful link. It was time for Jigu to bestow a name upon it. A notification flashed. The gate connection was complete. Jigu brainstormed, searching for a name that would sound truly legendary. While contemplating, he noticed something strange about Do. The sword was acting erratically, almost as if it were intoxicated. It boasted arrogantly, claiming this was its true form and that it would never play second fiddle to the holy sword Io again. This sudden competitive streak left Jigu unsettled. He called out to Do repeatedly, trying to snap it out of its trance. "Have you lost your mind?" Jigu demanded. Do blinked, suddenly coming to its senses, confused by its own outburst. Io chimed in, noting Do's state of confusion. Jigu was baffled, but Do cut Io off before any explanation could be given. Claiming a sudden headache, Do retreated to rest. Jigu agreed, though he filed away a growing list of concerns for later. Turning his focus back to the gate, Jigu thought of the fading memory of Bran Hurt. He made his decision. The new gate would officially be christened Bran Hurt. Outside, the association had already initiated emergency protocols, evacuating citizens to safety as agents guarded the entrance. "What rank is this?" one agent muttered. Rumors suggested a unique gate fluctuating between rank F and Sia. True headache. Otisis arrived on the scene, immediately questioning Sung-Hun about their contingency plans. Sung-Hun confirmed that nearby guilds had been alerted and reinforcements were inbound. Otisis pressed for the evacuation status. Sung-Hun estimated 30 minutes, but Otisis's eyes narrowed. He demanded the area be cleared in just 10. Faced with the boss's absolute authority, Sung-Hun could only bow and scramble to comply. When asked about the stubborn reporters, Otisis's patience snapped. Let them face their fate if they value a story over their lives. But it wasn't the breach that truly worried Otisis. If that was a manageable threat. With his current forces, they were more than prepared. However, a breach meant one thing. Jigu had failed. Right then, a spiderweb of cracks appeared on the gate's surface. Otisis's greatest fear was becoming a reality. Heart heavy with guilt for Kim Jigu, Otisis drew his weapon, preparing to hold the line at all costs. Sung-Hun noticed Otisis's strange expression, but his calls went completely unanswered. Driven by a vengeful rage, Otisis charged toward the gate, vowing to avenge Jigu with his own 2 hands. As he screamed Jig's name, a figure stepped through the portal. A familiar voice responded, Kim Jigu had returned safely. Otisis lost his footing. Seeing Jigu perfectly fine made him curse in shock before hitting the pavement in a heap. Jigu scratched his cheek, bewildered by the massive crowd and the chaotic reception waiting for him. Suddenly, camera flashes exploded like a barrage of magic spells. The reporters swarmed Jigu like the undead hordes from within the gate. Cameras flashed as the press demanded he reveal his face, the hero who cleared the gate alone. The relentless swarm of reporters and their questions left Jigu feeling completely overwhelmed and cornered. At home, Taego prepared dinner while questioning Jig's rapid growth. Seung-hun wondered if he should stay. A unique attribute isn't just some random skill, is it? Tessis asked, trying to comfort the group. Jigu kept Seung-hun close out of deep trust. He wouldn't have hired him otherwise. Tessis then turned the conversation to the gate connection. What exactly happened during that mysterious link? Being his first time, Jigu wasn't sure. The system was balancing things and didn't respond at all. Tessis grew concerned about Do's silence as well. It seemed the entity had exceeded its current limits. Jigu noted that while Do was quiet, its abilities remained accessible. Everything seemed stable for now. Taego marveled that if Jig's gate-taming power leaked, the world would go wild. Ignore the press, he advised. The association had already handled the media, ensuring total secrecy. Jigu thanked him for the massive favor. Suddenly, Jig's phone rang. A voice on the other end asked if he was the man on TV. The caller had recognized his signature rings and necklace. Confirming the identity of the mysterious hero, they mocked his ridiculous mask before Tessis asked if the association had called the others as well. Simultaneously, news broke of a mysterious hero who single-handedly stopped a devastating gate. Dungeon break. Elsewhere, Dung Soo-dung read the news. Ba-an noticed her unusually bright mood and grew curious. With a dangerous smile, she mused about how well she had trained her latest disciple. Most journalist players were retirees chasing scoops on the tower. Meanwhile, Jigu and Tessis tackled the dishes. Tessis apologized for the media breach, but Jigu knew his friend hadn't let them in on purpose. Tessis warned of a notorious troublemaker hiding among the press, leaving Jigu feeling quite confused. Tessis explained. It's 𝐒𝐮𝐩𝐫𝐞𝐦𝐿, a high-tier retired ranker known for causing absolute chaos. Tessis advised Jigu to avoid the man at all costs. Jigu nodded, taking the warning to heart. At the shop, the senior teased Gu about his growing obsession with hoarding rare and expensive items. Selfish master, hungry for egos, ... Jigu sighed, missing Du's constant chatter. The silence felt strangely hollow. Io felt a twinge of guilt, unable to provide the same lively banter as that loudmouthed Du. Seeing Jigu muttering alone, the shopkeeper smirked. I saw you in the papers. You're getting famous, kid. He recognized Jig's gear and jokingly asked if he should pay a fee for the free advertising. That's why I'm here, Jigu replied, making the old man think he was actually demanding a payment. Jigu explained he needed to keep a low profile, required something to mask his true identity. Understanding the request, the old man mocked Jig's previous mask for being hideously ugly and crude. The shop didn't stock masks. Jigu clarified he wasn't looking for one. Especially not another ugly one. Then what? The senior asked. Gugu explained that his egos and mask were far too recognizable. He could simply stop wearing the mask, but his other signature gear was the real problem. The necklace was safe, but his essential rings needed a clever way to stay hidden from cameras. Grumbling, the shopkeeper pointed out a few iron gauntlets. Take a look at these. I don't have many. Jigu successfully synced with the gear after several attempts, finding the connection much smoother this time. Jigu sensed his ego compatibility had grown. Io chimed in, confirming his master's power had reached new heights. Previously, he could only manage E and J now. Jig's soul had become far more resilient. Io quickly added that maybe the old egos just hated their names. Jigu told him to stop. Avoiding anything too flashy, Jig's eyes landed on a simple, unassuming pair of dark iron gauntlets. The shopkeeper nodded in silent approval. Jigu initiated the sync, christening the new equipment Oberon. System? Link successful. Jigu pulled up Oberon's stats as the old man asked for his. First, impression. It felt unfamiliar, but the stats were incredible. These were the perfect gauntlets for his combat style. He wondered if he could still summon EO and Do while wearing these new Oberon gauntlets. Normal gear usually shattered upon summoning them. Jigu called out instantly. They manifested on his hands perfectly. The senior official stared, genuinely impressed by the sheer quality of Jig's new weapon. With Oberon summoned, he tested if the gauntlet could conceal his rings despite being a decorative piece. Gu activated the disguise skill, turning the gauntlet into ordinary gloves, perfect for his everyday use. He asked for the price, but the elder requested a future favor instead of gold. The next day, chaos erupted in the Alliance Hall as Jigu watched the surging crowd. They demanded to know if they were secret agents. Gu turned to Sung-hun for an explanation. Journalists have been relentless ever since the news of that day broke out, Sung-hun explained. They're hunting for the masked ranker. You really made a scene during your first mission. Jigu offered to stop climbing and clear gates instead, but Sung-hun insisted it wasn't necessary. Reporters expect a high ranker, so they're currently camping out on the tower's upper floors. They're searching the wrong floors. Jigu immediately caught the sharp sarcasm in Sung-hun's voice. Back on the first floor, the elder's request for help echoed in Jig's mind. The elder takes immense pride in his work. Whatever favor he asks won't be simple. Deep in the forest, a mysterious voice suddenly whispered, "Are you there, master?" Jigu scanned the area, startled. He asked Io if she had heard the voice too. Io was confused, but the voice spoke again, demanding that the master call its name. "Speak my name, master." Jigu turned to Io. "Did you hear that this time?" It wasn't Du. The voice was different. Suddenly, Jigu realized it was 𝐁𝐻𝐿 calling out. He stared at the glowing orb. It felt strangely familiar, yet its true nature remained unknown. Jigu gasped in shock as his own reflection shimmered vividly within the orb's surface. System. The form of 𝐁𝐻𝐿 is undefined. Please determine a physical form. This awakening felt different from Du's. Jigu reassured a worried Io while analyzing the system. Place your hand on the orb, Io instructed, and visualize the form you desire. Jigu closed his eyes, his will flowing into the orb as he communicated with 𝐁𝐻𝐿. Despite their short time together, 𝐁𝐻𝐿 had saved his life countless times until the very end. He wished for that protection once more. Suddenly, a brilliant light surged toward Jigu. It transformed into a small device resembling a high-tech button. A cheerful voice then chirped, "Master, I'm so happy to be with you again." That confirmed it 𝐁𝐻𝐿 had returned. System, the ego 𝐁𝐻𝐿 has successfully inherited all previous memories. Jigu wondered if this was the same companion. 𝐁𝐻𝐿 excitedly confirmed it was indeed him. Their reunion was joyful, though 𝐁𝐻𝐿's personality was far more energetic than Jigu expected. He expected a silent night, not this childish voice. "Initiate integration," Jigu commanded. Io introduced herself, and 𝐁𝐻𝐿 happily recalled her from his past memories. Unlike Du, 𝐁𝐻𝐿 fused directly with him, the result of his heartfelt wish. He retained his mere skills and gained new abilities derived from his time as a gate. After reviewing the new status window, Jigu couldn't stop praising 𝐁𝐻𝐿's incredible growth. He spent a week climbing, mastering the different states of his egos and 𝐁𝐻𝐿's powers. First up, open and close, skills that grant absolute control over gate portals. However, he couldn't enter them yet, and the monsters inside still wouldn't obey his commands. Still, the tactical potential was massive. He could trigger a gate outbreak whenever he pleased. Master this power completely, and Jigu would ascend far beyond the limits of any human. Next were Absorb and Dominate, the core skills driving 𝐁𝐻𝐿's evolution. One allowed 𝐁𝐻𝐿 to consume other gates, while the other let him subjugate lower-ranked ones. Looking over the descriptions, Jigu finally grasped the true extent of his new arsenal. 𝐁𝐻𝐿 warned that it only worked on own gates even. This power had its boundaries. Jigu eyes his next prize. Looming ahead is the Floor 28 Guardian, the fearsome great tiger swordsman. After a week of hunting bottom feeders, Jigu hungers for a challenge that actually bites back. Stamina surges. Jigu blurs forward, ending the beast in one strike. Barely enough to break a sweat, he scoffs. The tiger's massive claws are severed instantly, spraying crimson across the cold stone floor. It howls in agony. Jigu simply smirks, effortlessly dancing away from the creature's desperate, enraged counterattack. The beast lives up to its name, lunging with feral speed. Jigu meets every strike with blinding precision. Claw against blade, Jigu remains unfazed. When the beast corners him for the kill, Jig's smile turns predatory. Reflection. A blinding supernova of light erupts, swallowing the entire battlefield in an instant. Adapting to the Guardian's massive scale was easier than expected. Janhet's skill is proving to be a masterpiece. Janhet beams at the praise. In return, Jigu promises the loyal companion a feast very soon. System, blood absorbed. Only a single green crystal drops. Ouch. No gear? Jigu sighs at the lackluster loot. Perhaps the carcass will fetch a high price. Though reporting this to the association might cause a stir. Keeping his word, Jigu opens the gate and tosses the green crystal into the swirling void. Janhet's evolution is becoming clearer. System, the gate has successfully integrated the new essence. The monsters within the gate grow stronger, fueled by the crystals. Janhet is literally consuming power to evolve. With Janhet's growth and his own mastered stamina speed combos, Jigu is becoming a living weapon. Du remains in a deep slumber, yet its power stays potent. Meanwhile, Io continues to level up steadily. Floor 30 is within reach, but Jigu decides to assess his path once he clears floor 29. On floor 29, tension explodes. A red team warrior sneers at a rival group, demanding their identity. The blue team isn't intimidated. Steel clashes as chaos erupts, the sounds of battle reaching Jig's keen ears. Janhet urges him to investigate, but Jigu hesitates to meddle in someone else's bloody business. The tides of battle turn quickly. The red team is being systematically crushed by their opponents. The red leader threatens them with the Tree Guild's name. The blue leader just laughs, demanding their head. I've already set the trap for that Du Suk Vu, the villain brags, his arrogance peaking. Mid-sentence, Jigu slams the villain's face into the dirt. A dark, familiar rage flickers in Jig's eyes. Why is the Ambush Guild hunting the Tree Guild? His mind races as he grips the leader's head. Don't just stand there, a crony screams. He's just one man. Kill him. An ominous aura radiates from Jigu as he fights to stay calm. The fools charge headfirst into death. Blood stains his blade. For the first time, Jigu kills a human, and he doesn't feel a hint of hesitation. The blade slices through flesh with terrifying ease. A dark, bloodthirsty thrill begins to tremble in his heart. Jigu becomes a blur of slaughter, wiping out the blue team. Only Io's voice brings him back to reality. The survivor introduces himself as 𝐂𝐿, a mid-level commander of the prestigious Tree Guild. 𝐿𝐿 bows in gratitude, having heard legendary tales of Jigu from his own guildmaster. The leader wants Jigu to join them, but 𝐿𝐿 is stunned. This Jigu is nothing like the rumors. Their master described Jigu as having a weak heart, someone to be protected and worried over. Yet, the man before him is a cold executioner with power rivaling even their own guildmaster. Jigu demands answers. Why is the Ambush Guild targeting 𝐿𝐿's team and why are they after Sukvu? 𝐿𝐿 shakes his head. Their master isn't the type to spark senseless wars or hold petty grudges. We'll make them talk, 𝐿𝐿 says coldly. Red players have no rights. Torture is an available option. 𝐿𝐿 hates the idea of torture, but the word itself sends Jigu into a deep, dark trance. He recalls the Guardian raid that moment when he completely lost himself to a strange, violent impulse. He once blamed it on trauma from his own past torture, a lingering shadow on his psyche. But hearing 𝐿𝐿 talk of torture now, Jigu feels nothing. No fear, no trauma. It was never there. If there was no trauma, then why did he lose control? The answer slips through his fingers. A chilling realization dawns. He actually enjoyed the killing. Behind him, his companions watch in silent worry. Sensing their concern, Jigu offered a quiet apology. Stay back, he warned. I've already planned our next move. Thoughts of the Demon Queen's surface sheet was clearly tied to his past. He returned to 𝐿𝐿, who was currently breaking the captives. 𝐿𝐿 apologized for the gruesome scene. Jigu merely nodded, his eyes cold. Did they spill anything useful yet? 𝐿𝐿 sighed in frustration. Nothing but low-level grunts. following blind orders from the top. Trash tier scouts, Jigu scoffed at their pathetic stats. 𝐂𝐻𝐿 watched him, secretly terrified by Jig's overwhelming aura. "We're heading deeper," 𝐂𝐻𝐿 announced. "The real descent begins now." They considered calling their guild master for backup, but Jigu suddenly froze, his senses screaming. "Wait, we aren't alone." The ambush guild struck again. This time, a literal army of 100 players swarmed them like locusts. "Since when do these rats have such loyalty?" Jigu questioned. "𝐂𝐻𝐿, is the association on the way?" "The report was sent," 𝐂𝐻𝐿 replied grimly. "But no reinforcements are coming. We're on our own." Jig's gaze sharpened into blades. "I'll blast a path. Get a messenger ready. Bring the fire." Despite the overwhelming odds, a dark thrill raced through Jigu. The prospect of slaughter made his blood boil with excitement. His eyes shifted. The berserker was waking up. Like a flash of lightning, Jigu vanished, leaving the enemy in pure chaos. They couldn't even track his shadow. Before they could blink, bodies were already flying into the air. One man was dismantling an entire guild. Jigu moved like a god of death amidst the panic. The Tree Guild watched, speechless. Inspired by his raw power, they roared and charged into the fray. To Jigu, this felt no different than hunting monsters. No guilt, just instinct. Suddenly, a massive fireball roared toward his head. He didn't even flinch. With a mocking smirk, Jigu danced through the flames, leaving the onlookers in total shock. An orange-haired man stepped out, looking impressed, dodging a high-rank stolen artifact. "You're faster than you look." 𝐂𝐻𝐿's blood ran cold. Standing before them was the fallen ranker and notorious butcher, Minho Choi. "You have the scent of a killer," Choi laughed. "How about it? Want a seat at my table?" In the tower, those who hunt their own kind are branded as red players. Law is a fairy tale here. The association only guards the gates, powerless to stop the rising pile of corpses. Minho Choi was once a legendary ranker. He was just the tower's most dangerous psychopath. He traded luxury and fame for the pure joy of murder. A true monster who lived for the hunt. That very madman was now offering Jigu a hand. "We're two of a kind," Choi whispered. "Join us, and we'll turn this tower into our playground." Jigu remembered his lost control. The darkness felt familiar. He scowled in disgust. "Don't group me with human trash." The insult sent the enemy vice leader into a towering rage. "You arrogant little brat." "Do you know who?" Before he could finish, a pillar of flame turned him to ash. Choi incinerated his own man just for interrupting. The survivors trembled as their leader smiled through the smoke. Choi casually blew on his burning artifact. "My hand slipped," he said with a hollow, twisted grin. "Well, look at that. The vice leader spot is vacant now. It's yours if you want it, Jigu." Jigu ignored the offer completely. "Tell me, why are you targeting the Tree Guild?" Choi's smile twitched with annoyance. "Fine, we're sick of this cage. We're leaving the tower for good. We're bored of being trapped. To escape, we need to negotiate ... with your guild master." 𝐂𝐻𝐿 barked back. "What does our guild have to do with your escape? Are we just hostages?" Choi's eyes gleamed, but Jigu cut through the mystery. "Do you know the secret of the second unique attribute?" Choi froze, his interest turning into obsession.
You know about it too?"
"You really are full of surprises." "Shut up and talk," 𝐂𝐻𝐿 roared, lunging forward. Choi's face lit up with sadistic joy as their eyes locked. Steel clashed as Choi drew his twin blades. The air exploded with the sound of a lethal, high-speed duel. The psycho leader was mesmerized. He had finally found a toy worth breaking. "Know your place." Choi unleashed a wave of fire, scorching his own allies just to strike Jigu. The explosion sent Jigu skidding across the floor. The real battle was only just beginning. This wasn't like his past fights. Every nerve in Jig's body was screaming. This was a true dance with death. Jigu has faced countless elites, but this man is a true predator. Laughing like a maniac, SEO Choi lunges with lethal intent. The pressure is relentless, leaving no room to breathe. Jigu finds himself struggling to keep up with the overwhelming speed. Despite his newfound strength, the enemy matches him blow for blow. With his skills on cooldown, a sudden warning echoes from his left. Twin blades pierce Jig's side, sending him crashing back. He grinds his swords into the dirt just to stay upright. His movements, they suddenly got faster. Is it a skill? No, his physical rhythm hasn't changed at all. 𝐀𝐿 spins his daggers with a sadistic grin, savoring the moment of dominance. Scared of my flames already? This isn't even the true destructive power of the fire mace. He explains the trap. The weapon accumulates damage over time. The longer this duel lasts, the more certain Jig's demise becomes. You can't win, he sneers. Surrender now, and I might let you join my ranks. Accumulating damage, huh? Jigu smirks. You should have mentioned that sooner. He immediately triggers his ultimate enhancement. Still hiding an ace? 𝐀𝐿𝐿 mocks, unleashing his final, devastating inferno to end it all. Jigu plunges straight into the heart of the raging fire. The heat is agonizing, but it's his only path to victory. Steel screams against steel as Jig's blade slams into the twin daggers. Remembering the enemy's boast, Jigu activates reflection. The system roars as all the stored damage is hurled back. 𝐂𝐿𝐿's jaw drops as his own flames consume him. He's blasted away like a rag doll, eyes rolling back in total defeat. What a rookie mistake, Jigu scoffs. Why would you go and reveal your own weakness like that? System alert, Devour activated. Player 𝐂𝐿𝐿 has been successfully absorbed into the void. He hadn't expected to absorb a human. The true conditions for this terrifying power remain a mystery. His legs tremble as the adrenaline fades. That was a desperate struggle against a seasoned master. He can't show a hint of weakness. The remaining members of the Sneak Guild are still circling like vultures. Their leader is dead. Will these cowards finally choose to surrender? The boss and the vice leader are gone, they whisper. The one who kills him becomes the new king, right? Drained of all strength, Jigu stands alone as the guild members lock their predatory gazes onto him. His allies scream for him to run, but Jigu realizes the hidden cost of his victory. To reflect that much power, he had to endure every ounce of it first. Just like in the labyrinth, the internal damage is severe. The very skill that saved him is now tearing him apart. His body is screaming for rest. If only he could close his eyes for just 10 minutes. The mob flinches as Jig's killing intent flares. They finally understand why their leader was so obsessed with him. He isn't even a red rank. How can one man exert such terrifying pressure? It doesn't matter. They have the numbers. They only need one lucky strike to finish the job. As the vultures swarm the exhausted warrior, a sudden shift in the atmosphere halts them in their tracks. Jig's pained expression twists into a confident smirk. A massive blizzard erupts, freezing the attackers where they stand. 𝐂𝐿𝐿 has arrived to turn the tide. His allies cheer at the sight of their leader. 𝐂𝐿𝐿 acknowledges them, but stays focused on the threat. He unleashes a wave of absolute zero, reaping through the guild's ranks from above. Seeing only a few stragglers left, he draws his ice blade. Give me 3 minutes to clean this up. He moves like a freezing gale, carving through the remaining enemies in a blur of cold steel. 𝐂𝐿𝐿 has reached a legendary level, yet Jigu senses that the gap between them is finally narrowing. Jigu downs a high-grade potion and rejoins the fray, moving with a speed that defies the human eye. 𝐂𝐿𝐿 watches the display with a smirk, impressed by Jig's relentless growth. Make that 1 minute, he calls out. In an instant, the remaining hostiles are neutralized and bound. With the area secured, 𝐂𝐿𝐿 approaches Jigu to check on his battered friend. You've changed so much, he notes. But what's wrong with your eyes? They've turned a deep purple. A strange heat radiates from his gaze. Could this be a side effect of his evolution? Just a new skill, Jigu replies dismissively. He has become something far more powerful than anyone realized. 𝐁𝐞𝐽 stood frozen in absolute disbelief. Despite 𝐶𝐿𝐿's warning, the reality was mind-blowing. The legendary masked Jan was actually Jigu. Jig's brow furrowed in confusion. How on earth did 𝐶𝐿𝐿 recognize him well enough to tip off 𝐁𝐞𝐽? Palu's got a sharp eye, 𝐁𝐞𝐽 smirked. Besides, you can't exactly hide from family. You are his cousin, after all. Jigu exhaled a long sigh, thankful the mask offered some privacy. He envied 𝐁𝐞𝐻𝐿's fame, but 𝐁𝐞𝐻 just laughed, noting their polar opposite personalities. Are the vultures, I mean, reporters still swarming the association? Jigu asked. Shouldn't the media frenzy have died down by now? 𝐁𝐞𝐻 noted they had shifted their focus to a fresh scandal. Jigu looked puzzled, prompting 𝐁𝐞𝐻's surprised expression. Really haven't heard. 𝐁𝐞𝐻 dropped a bombshell. The association president had publicly revealed his identity. Jigu went quiet, realizing the president had exposed himself just to shield him. 𝐁𝐞𝐻 rose to his feet. Seeing Jigu again was a rare treat, and he truly wished they could grab a drink, but duty called. Jigu nodded understandingly. Crisis this massive meant zero free time. Unwilling to end things abruptly, 𝐁𝐞𝐻 suggested a quick coffee instead. Flashing a specific ring, 𝐁𝐞𝐻's gaze turned deep and mysterious. Jig's eyes widened in shocks. 𝐁𝐞 was a mercenary too. We're everywhere, 𝐁𝐞𝐻 whispered. And believe me, that ring on your finger is a dead giveaway to anyone in the business. Watch your back, 𝐁𝐞𝐻 cautioned. Being fellow mercenaries doesn't make us allies. Most pros use skills or items to hide their rings from prying eyes. Jigu had already sensed the danger. He'd already picked up a pair of reinforced gloves to keep his secret under wraps. Curiosity finally got the better of him. Jigu leaned in and asked, So, what's your official mercenary code name? It's a rock, 𝐁𝐞𝐻 muttered with a grimace. Jigu tried to console him. At least it sounded better than his own ridiculous alias, Great Hammer. Eager to drop the embarrassing topic, Jigu shifted gears. Why exactly did the Ambush Guild target 𝐁𝐞𝐻's organization so aggressively? How did the secret of 𝐁𝐞𝐻's second unique ability leak? A skill as rare as gate creation was a world-shaking secret. The power to tear open rifts anywhere, whether inside or outside the tower, ... It was an ability that could shatter the global balance of power. 𝐁𝐞𝐻's expression betrayed his struggle to keep it hidden. If even his own guild members were in the dark, how did those snakes find out? Checking his watch, 𝐁𝐞𝐻 motioned toward the exit. It's a long and complicated story. Let's head down and talk while we move. 𝐁𝐞𝐬 teased him for ditching his duties as guild leader. 𝐁𝐞𝐻 just smirked. Priorities, 𝐁𝐞𝐻. Talking to a VIP like you always comes first. Besides, my team is handling the cleanup, 𝐁𝐞𝐻 added. Hearing that, Jigu decided he'd be the one picking the cafe this time. 𝐁𝐞𝐻 agreed. Soon, they were in the director's office, where 𝐻𝐿 stood with crossed arms and a judging heavy gaze. Does this look like a damn coffee shop to you? 𝐻𝐿 barked. Jigu just grinned. Well, it's the only place with guaranteed free privacy. The word free made 𝐻𝐿's eye twitch. Keep it up, and I'll start charging you by the minute, he growled, before noticing Jig's altered eye color. Just a side effect of a skill, Jigu replied dismissively, though internally he wondered when his eyes would finally return to normal. 𝐻𝐿's expression shifted into a predatory grin. I heard the news. You two absolute monsters turned that ambush guild into a total graveyard, didn't you? 𝐻𝐿 assumed they were there for intel, but Jigu shook his head. Honestly, I just wanted somewhere quiet to escape the noise. That answer clearly annoyed 𝐻𝐿. Turning back to 𝐁𝐞𝐻, his tone sharpened. So, ... Did those bastards really discover your gate ability? I was forced to use it last month, 𝐁𝐞𝐻 admitted. A few members saw, and unfortunately, one was captured by the Ambush Guild. Those cowards are desperate for any scrap of info on the outside world. They'll use every cruel method imaginable to break a man's silence. 𝐻𝐿 clicked his tongue at the mess. And the members they snatched. Any word on whether they're still drawing breath? 𝐁𝐞𝐻 shook his head grimly. Since none of the ambush prisoners knew their location, the odds of them being alive were slim. Silence fell as the grim implications sank in. Jigu turned his gaze toward the distant castle. Is your true self really inside those walls? Du remained silent, lost in deep thought for a long moment before nodding slowly. I see. I understand what must be done. Suddenly, a venomous stinger lashed out. Jigu blurred, dodging the strike with inches to spare before leaping onto Du's sword form for leverage. "What are you doing, Master?" Du asked, bewildered. Jigu shrugged, "Using you as a tactical platform. Stop complaining and hold steady." Surveying the endless tide of scorpions, Jigu sighed. Wiping them all out would be a massive energy drain, especially with the castle's unknown threats. Jigu glanced down at the blade with a serious look. "Well, Du, care to enlighten me about your true form now?" Du wore a mask of mystery. "That story is for later, Master. Right now, we have a literal army of monsters to deal with." Jigu didn't press him further. He trusted Du had his reasons. Steeling his resolve, he prepared to charge straight through the chaos. "Sorry," Dan Hetchigu apologized. "No time to harvest crystals." As Dan Het replied, Du's eyes lit up with sudden, intense curiosity. "Meet the ego of the gate," Jigu explained. "This consciousness has inherited the memories and essence of the original Dan Het." Dan Het offered a respectful greeting, acknowledging Du as a senior. Du puffed out his chest, clearly enjoying the newfound respect and status. With a burst of explosive speed, Jig's feet blurred across the shifting sands. Finally, the ominous castle loomed large before his eyes. Glancing at the scorpions, Du urged him to stop posing and enter. Inside, even the statues radiated terrifying boss room pressure. A massive door loomed ahead. Du whispered that his true physical form lay just beyond it. Gilgu felt the heavy atmosphere. Suddenly, the frozen guard sprang to life, launching a lethal surprise attack. He leaped back to evade the crushing blow. "Are these things golems?" he wondered aloud. Their power was impressive, but he struck back instantly. His dual blades moved like lightning, yet the guard's legs remained unscathed. Jigu glanced at the door behind them, wondering if he could simply make a run for it. He quickly dismissed the thought. Seeking a weakness, he vaulted into the air and aimed for their heads. The strike landed, but the guards didn't flinch. Instead, a counterblow sent him crashing violently into the wall. Blood spilled from the impact. Despite the pain, he gritted his teeth, his mind racing to find a counter-strategy. As the giants advanced, his companions trembled. Du's voice echoed. "Use their own strength against them." "Full reinforcement," he roared. "Okay." The two guards raised their heavy weapons and struck down once more. With a desperate parry, he redirected their momentum, causing them to strike each other. He succeeded, despite his own injuries. Du offered a rare word of praise. Jigu just scoffed, hiding the exhaustion in his voice. This was turning into a brutal day. Standing before the door, he warned they would have serious words later. Jigu questioned Du about the true meaning of his body being sealed inside. Du explained it was his original mortal shell, a legendary warrior whose power Jigu couldn't hope to match. Jigu smirked through the pain. "You think I can't take him now?" "That's just the vessel," Du replied. "My soul is here. Inside is merely a hollow, empty shell from the past, an entity driven purely by muscle memory of flawed imitation." Then, the heavy doors slowly groaned open. Jigu didn't hesitate. He consumed his healing items and pushed every reinforcement spell to its absolute limit. He prepared for the worst, but a booming voice stopped him cold. "Are you the one who disturbed my slumber?" A crushing pressure filled the room. This was no flawed version. Jigu wondered, what exactly was Du's true history? "Are you really Du?" he asked. The figure rose, each step echoing with authority. "That is not my name." He introduced himself as the sovereign of demon arts and blades, the undisputed king of all magic beasts. "Call me the Demon King," he declared. Recalling Jigu as the one who would awaken the power within the seal, Jigu was stunned. Was Du's true identity actually the legendary Demon King of the stories? The king tried to speak his true name, but a mysterious force distorted the sound. Keeping it a secret? Gugu smirks. Du has many secrets. "Hey, you okay if I take down your old body?" "Destroy it," Du said coldly. "Won't let anyone toy with my remains." Jigu settled into a combat stance. Raising his twin swords, he activated his speed buffs and lunged at the shell with explosive force. The Demon King didn't flinch. As the blades descended, He calmly warned Jigu to watch his surroundings. Suddenly, spectral blades surged toward him. Jigu barely evaded, earning a not bad from the king. But the praise was sharp. The king noted that such a weak attack wouldn't even leave a scratch. Jigu turned to Du. "Was this guy always this arrogant?" he asked, feeling the heat of the battle. Looking at the wall of blades, he realized the king was right. Approaching him was going to be a nightmare. "Is that all you've got?" the Demon King taunted. With a snap of his fingers, he declared it was his turn. Hundreds of swords screamed through the air. The ground erupted into a crater of flames, but Jigu had already vanished. He reappeared behind the king for a lethal backstab, but the monarch was already one step ahead. "How foolish," the king sighed. In an instant, 100 hidden blades swarmed toward Jig's position. The unpredictable strike caught him off guard, blasting him across the throne room. He stabbed his swords into the ground to stop his slide. He was badly hurt, leaving his friends watching in terror. Du's voice rang out, warning of the next wave. A storm of sentient blades began a relentless synchronized assault. Jigu struggled to block the chaotic barrage. It felt like fighting 12 master swordsmen all at once. In the heat of the chaos, Jigu recalled the Demon King's first words upon his awakening. A shocking realization struck him. He yelled out to Du, "These are demon swords, aren't they?" Du confirmed his theory was correct, then asked if he could devour these spirits, just like he did. With 𝐂𝐿. Du claimed it was impossible here as the domain empowered the vessel yet offered a fragment of its strength instead. Requesting a moment to prepare, Du faded away, leaving Jigu to battle the demonic blades all alone. He unleashed 2 sharp waves of energy, desperately trying to halt the spectral sword's relentless advance. Jigu sprinted in circles to distract them, yet the cursed blades shadowed his every move without fail. While parrying the onslaught, he urged Du to hurry, as his stamina reached its absolute limit. Jigu launched a daring direct assault, while an Ong deflected the incoming blades with a mirror. Technique. Perched upon a floating wall, he watched his plan fail, as the king remained completely unscathed. With no options left, he called out to Du, declaring he could not hold out any longer. Du finally appeared with praise as the system announced a massive surge in his magic sensitivity. Rank C achieved. Jigu grinned at the Demon King as the sky above turned a blood-red hue. "Incredible," the king roared, unable to believe a mere human could wield such terrifying power. The system flashed a notification he had mastered Du's death law, granting him authority over spirits. "You have learned the death god arts, allowing for the limited manipulation of life's final end." The demon swords began to decay, leaving the king shocked that a mortal could possess such energy. As Jigu landed, the Demon King trembled and let out a scream of pure madness. "That power belongs to me," he shrieked, swirling his blades into a crimson vortex. From the center of the storm, he ordered the blades to tear Jigu into 1,000 pieces. Jigu braced for impact as his glowing blade clashed against the swirling tide of death energy. The massive gate was obliterated, and 𝐁𝐞𝐬𝐿 cried out, asking if the monster was finally dead. Jigu remained silent, only whispering a name as a shadow emerged from the red smoke. The king's rage exploded. Raising his dark blade, he concentrated all his power into one strike. "How dare you?" he bellowed. "A mere human thinks he can challenge me." His strike shattered the very ground, yet 𝐂𝐬𝐿 moved like lightning, narrowly escaping the destruction. He stared in awe, realizing the king still stood even after taking a direct hit of death. Du boasted with pride, explaining that even a hollow shell retained the might of its original form. "One more time," Jigu demanded, but Du warned that his body had reached its absolute limit. "Once is enough," he replied, leaping back into the air for the final clash. Following the same trajectory, he drew the king's laughter for his apparent lack of strategy. The giant blade fell, but Jigu blocked it, head-on pouring every bit of strength into his defense. "A bug is still just a bug," the king mocked, asking what his next pathetic move would be. He sneered, wondering if Jigu truly believed he could surpass his own mortal boundaries. But a smile vanished when he realized Jig's right-hand sword had completely disappeared. The blade appeared behind him as Jig's expression changed to pure confidence, parrying the king's strike. To the king's horror, the power of death began to consume his body and his blade. "I am the king of monsters," he screamed, refusing to accept his inevitable demise. He disintegrated into the air, and Jigu collapsed, leaving his companions in a state of panic. Amidst the chaos, he offered a weak smile, explaining he was just completely exhausted. Du warned of the heavy price for such reckless power, while Jigu downed a healing potion. The system chimed, announcing his success in the special trial and awarding massive bonus prizes. 𝐀𝐖𝐀𝐊𝐄 slowly closed his eyes, resting for a brief moment. He awoke in a mysterious hall, where 2 reward chests sat atop a grand stone altar. The reward room, he realized, as the system granted him the fusion and manifestation skills. His assimilation level surged, pushing his latent abilities to a brand new height. The status window opened, revealing his new strength and the path to becoming a legend. Contemplating ego manifestation, Jigu theorized that fusing Du and Yu would result in a combined entity. Du interrupted his thoughts, sarcastically asking if he lost his mind in battle. He quickly agreed. Jigu approached to reward chests, laughing off the joke to hide his embarrassment. He activated his skills to identify the rewards. Trembling with excitement at the gold and diamond chests, Du questioned his joy, but Jigu explained that diamond chests were as rare as legendary elixirs. Jigu chose to open the gold chest first, saving the best treasure for the grand finale. Inside were 3 glowing golden spheres. They looked strangely familiar, sparking a faint memory within him. A system notification confirmed he'd found 3 ego fragments. They ascended, erupting into brilliant pillars of light. He wondered if these were the same fragments he'd earned after clearing the Blue Wolf Gate. Jigu pondered their presence in the tower before closing the box, trusting their purpose would soon vanish. Now came the moment of truth. Everyone watched in anticipation as he reached for the diamond chest. Inside lay 3 bone fragments. Sensing their presence, Du began to glow with a strange, resonant light. Du whispered that these were pieces of his true body. Later, at a secure association cafe, Jigu placed Du on the table, demanding to know the truth behind the sword's mysterious origins.